Dizzy dames. What were they thinking, sticking me with a beat-up bucket of bolts like this? We were barely able to get the trunk to stay closed as it was. We or as it was. We packed it so tight there wasn't anything we could do but pile Jackie Boy in right next to me.
Jackie Boy. Bucket of Bolts. Car movie with a Jackie Boy character. I guess then there has to be some Tarantino tie here, I suppose.
There is.
Jackie Boy.
He was referred to in another part of this movie as a goddamned hero cop.
Jackie Boy, hero cop. Blanking.
It has a very, very big cast. Was very, very popular. Came out probably in like the mid 2000s, somewhere in that ballpark. It's looks very much like a graphic novel.
This is from Sin City?
It is from Sin City.
Ah, yeah, I don't know that movie nearly as well as you do.
Yes, but that is the scene that Quentin directed in that movie.
Gotcha. Cool.
You and I have unfinished business.
Oh? And what's so stinking about it?
Non facile feeling. Spirito Santo. I think this just might be my masterpiece.
Welcome to Season 3, Episode 3 of the Average Joe's Movie Clubcast. I'm Joey.
And I'm Justin.
So, Justin, you picked one of my all-time guilty pleasure. I don't know a better phrase for it. Movies. And I am really freaking stoked for this episode.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, heads up, we do discuss all of our full thoughts on these movies. So, if you haven't seen a movie and you don't want any spoilers, just skip ahead to another part, or watch the movie and then come back or something.
We'd love to grow this community, so make sure to join our movie club here, and so you know what we got coming up next, so you can get prepared for each episode. So we'd love you to subscribe, leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you.
Oh yeah, for sure. We actually got a couple we're going to be talking about here in a little bit, but so
we pushed this. We pushed this back a little bit for a pretty dire reason.
Yeah, we were gonna do this I think it was last week, but I had the coronavirus, and was pretty sick. I missed 2 weeks of work. The first week and a half, I just laid on the couch, like couldn't eat. Yeah, it was bad. I didn't really watch any movies. Literally just played Good Mythical Morning on loop. Because both me and my roommate were sick. So
is that a band?
No, Good Mythical Morning is like these guys named Rhett and Link. They're from North Carolina, and they have like a YouTube variety show. But most of it involves them like eating stuff and like ranking it, or taking, like, hey, we like burritos. These are other things we would like. Will it burrito? And they make weird ass shit. They actually have like a cooking show. So the people who cook and make the stuff for them like make shows, and they do all sorts of stuff. They're actually pretty well known.
Oh, okay, right on. What else is going on?
Nothing else really. Like I said, I just today was my second day back at work. So I lost some weight. I cut my hair.
It's good.
Excuse me. But that's really it, honestly. Like it has just been just laying around doing a lot of nothing. But doing better now.
It's
Still
good.
get a little tired. Um, but that's it. But probably from not eating for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I bet that'll wear you out. Yeah, I'm kind of
Yeah.
back on my diet, back on track with my diet. I kind of went on vacation a few weeks ago, so yeah, I was doing some major. Didn't really care what I was eating then. So I mean, you're on vacation. So what I did last week is I did like kind of a almost a smoothie diet. So I would pretty much have like two smoothies a day. Like, and I'd have like eggs in the morning. I think one day I had like a salad, but like that really got me on track and made me lose my junk slash alcohol weight. And yeah, so I'm back on track. Because ever since I hit my first goal weight at 275, yeah, I've been kind of yo-yo dieting. So I need to buckle down so I can get down to 250, and that'll be better. It's tough. There's lots of plateaus along the way, so you got to figure out how to navigate those. It's frustrating whenever you're dieting, and exercising, and then you weigh yourself, and you're like, I dropped no pounds. Why? So it's much better when you see results.
Yeah, you also got to keep in mind like the scale isn't always everything. Like I know you got a goal weight, but if you're dieting and exercising and your clothes are fitting better and you're feeling better, like you might be dropping weight because you might be making muscle. And
True.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, so lots of crazy. It'd be interesting to see if the show sounds any different because I'm actually in a. We did some home improvements. We got tile flooring, or no, vinyl flooring. So it's an upgrade. We used to have like laminate wood floor in the dining room and kitchen, and we upgraded that to vinyl, which is much nicer. So I was in charge of tearing up all our carpet. So I got to get old razor blade and start slicing up the carpet a couple weeks ago. So that was an interesting endeavor. Man, it was dirty. Like I was like cutting and cutting and cutting, and like I looked at my lap and I was just getting this huge mound of dust on my like lap from all like the dirt that was like embedded in the carpet. So that was kind of crazy. So yeah, it was a couple days around here where I was actually walking around on my slab. That's under the house. Yeah, it's been pretty penny to get the new stuff in, but we saved up, and we got new furniture. Well, we ordered new furniture from Lazy Boy at Labor Day, so like in September, and because of
Yeah.
Corona and stuff, all like the orders were backed up, and so it wasn't actually even available to deliver until January. So we like months and months ago we got it, and man, our existing furniture we'd had ever since we got married. Me and Christina got married, and so it was like ancient, and like it was so funny. Like the last couple of weeks, I had my Lazy Boy chair. The springs in the seat actually caved in, so like I was sitting in kind of like a hole, and I actually kind of got used to it. It was very awkward at first, but
Yeah, I would imagine that would have been kind of awkward.
So, and like our couch, like part of it was broken and like felt like you were kind of laying on a bar. And oh, it's so nice to have new stuff. Finally. Yeah, we finally treated ourselves. Oh, procrastination nation. Yeah, I've been procrastinating big time. So I do the Boy Scout stuff, and I went through a certification last year, and I was given like 15 months to complete like these service projects in order to like get like the final like, okay, you completed the certification. And yeah, every chance I get to procrastinate on this thing, I do. So finally dusting it off a little bit, and I got to get it done in the next 2 months because the other guy is done. And so like in order for us to like do the ceremony at the same time, like I need to get it done, so I can't let him down. So have a little bit of motivation now. I mean, it's easy. It's like stuff I would do at work, so like it shouldn't be hard. It's just you just kind of push stuff off when you feel like you have like forever to do it, you know.
That and it's like, oh, I've been doing this at work. Why do I want to come home and do this?
Well, I've been doing it at home. I just want to write a movie review and watch a movie. So that's me. And clean up the house and make sure the kids aren't killing each other. Yeah.
Hey, I would point this out. If the kids kill each other, then your house will stay a lot cleaner and you can watch a lot more movies. I'm not saying it's a good idea by any means. I'm just saying it's an idea.
If there's a death, I'd probably end up in the slammer. So it's probably not work out that way. Oh,
Look,
this got
just
dark.
like the movie we're going to talk about later, kids have accidents.
Holy shit. Yeah, I guess so.
Like, again, I'm not advocating and saying that you should do this or should allow this to happen. I'm just saying that could be an outcome.
So this vacation I mentioned, we treated ourselves to a weekend up in the Smoky Mountains, which I had never really been to. It's like right outside of Knoxville. And have you ever heard of Pigeon Forge, Tennessee?
Yep, I have heard of Pigeon Forge. I believe that is where the Jack Daniels distillery is, or not far from there.
Oh, well, if it is, I didn't see it. It's basically like Myrtle Beach in the mountains.
Oh, well, yes, so was Gatlinburg when I went to Gatlinburg. It literally was Myrtle Beach in the mountains. Like, there was a Ripley's Aquarium.
Mm-hmm.
There, we ate at Bubba Gump's Shrimp Company. Like,
Yep.
Yeah.
So, yeah. We stayed at a cabin there. It was a real nice place. We split it with another couple friends. Got my own wood-burning fireplace. Yeah, it was cool doing the cabin thing. I'd like to do it again. Maybe for summer. Yeah, I much prefer going up to the mountains and cabin over the beach. I'm over the beach.
I think I'm over the beach too, but like if it was one of those things like you can go to like the state park that's a beach and there's just less people, like that's fine. But yeah, going to Murder Beach and there's just tons of people all over the ocean. Like I think the last several times that I went to Myrtle Beach, it was either to like eat or shop. It wasn't to like go to the beach.
Mm-hmm. And like when we vacation in Hilton Head before, and I'm more into like riding my bike around the island than actually going to the beach. So yeah, I've gone to the beach my whole life. I'm over it.
Yeah, I lived in Beaufort, which wasn't super far from Hilton Head, and it's like you either have to be at a hotel or own property to basically get beach access. There's only like one public beach access on like the whole island. So it's either, oh, we're at the beach and there's no one here, or, oh, everybody from Beaufort and Bluffton and is the beach.
Wow.
So
the Beaufort Beach is the one with all the shells, right?
I think so. Like we only went to the beach at Hilton Head, and we only went like once or twice. Most of the time, if we were on Hilton Head, we were shopping or something of that nature. I mean, I think we spent probably more time in Savannah than we did in Hilton Head.
Oh, right on. So Golden Globes were Sunday. Did you peek in on any of that news?
I saw that Chadwick Boseman, won Best Actor.
Yep. I need to watch that movie. That's the next current movie that's up. I think Ma Rainey's is what it's called.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Nomadland, the movie I was talking about last time, I guess won Best Drama, and I think Borat, or is it Borat?
The Borat movie sequel.
Yeah, that won Best Comedy / musical. So that was kind of funny. You would never imagine Borat getting an accolade like that, but whatever. Did you see the new Borat?
I have not seen the first one or the second one. They do not look appealing to me.
Okay, there you go. So, been watching some more of the Oscar running movies, so I gotta look up when they're actually gonna name those nominees so I can make sure I get all those in. The last couple of years, I've made sure to watch all those before the show, so it's kind of fun to be up on that. Yep. And
I'm still like years behind. Like I'm still like, I want to watch Shape of Water. I want to watch Parasite.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I have Parasite. Like I don't own it, but it's in my house. It's not like it's hard to watch.
You gotta get on that. It's a good movie.
Well, you know how I do my count when I'm coming up on like a new number, I'll do like a themed countdown or whatever.
Hmm.
So Carl was doing that because he was coming up on 2100, I think, and he had it was movies from one of the lists that he had, like 10 movies from one of like the it wasn't I think it might have been the IMDb top 250 that he hadn't seen, and Parasite and like Harry Carey and like Rear Window and a couple other ones. But then we got sick and it was just like, yeah, no.
Carl
And
hasn't
so,
seen Harry Carey.
mm-mm.
Wow.
Neither have I, for that
It's
matter.
like
Want to? We both want to. It's just
I
when
mean,
you when you when you do stuff more than just scouts and watch movies, sometimes it makes it hard.
hey, still not enough time to do everything I want to do. Speaking
Silly
of
work.
miles, yeah. Speaking of milestones, let me pull up my vote for my 3000th movie. So yeah, I've been getting a pretty good reception on Letterboxd. I put up a poll saying, should I watch Cleo from 5 to 7, Charade, The Maltese Falcon, The Human Condition, Sherlock Jr., Secret Sunshine, El Topo, A Man Escaped, Rebel Without a Cause, and The 39 Steps. And so far, Cleo from 5 to 7 has a strong lead. So I'm about 30 movies away, so there's still time to vote. So I'd love it to see some more votes get cast before I hit 3,000.
Vote for Sherrod because he needs to see Sherrod.
It's not charade.
Yeah, it's a
Charade.
charade.
I guess it depends on if you say ah or
Well, charade, as in charades, is a game. Charade
Mm-hmm.
is like putting on a different face or something. It's a charade, I think. But anyway, you need to watch that because it has Audrey Hepburn in it. That's all there is to it.
Enough said.
So.
Yeah, I probably would have watched more movies last week, but have you ever heard of a Pinewood Derby?
with the where you make the cars and like you have to go downhill, like there's no engine and stuff in it.
Well, it's like a little model car, and you get like a block of pine and you saw it down, make it kind of look like a car. You add weights to make it go a little faster, and all the Cub Scouts race them. So yeah, last week was I had to make 4 of these little things, and it's very competitive. And I always get nervous about making them because like I want them to be good. And like this year I thought it was gonna be like, because it's really hard, like because I made them like real thin, because I want to go real fast, real thin, aerodynamics, I guess, whatever. But I didn't want it to like split apart, so I like drilled in like the wheel hole a little bit more. And when I actually did it too much, so like the nails were kind of like flipping out. So like I had to like put some super glue and some like that other hot glue. Yeah, so to make sure those wheels stayed in there, and yeah, we did pretty good. My Nolan's the one I designed to be the fastest. So like he lost out by 100th of a point in like his qualifier round, so he ended up with second in his division, but he actually, like the person who beat him raced slower in the finals than like Nolan's top score from the qualifiers. So like I was like, he was like devastated that he didn't go to the finals, but I'm like, you were the second fastest car here, chill out. So, but my other son, who I made a shark car for, which I spent entirely too much time like making like teeth like in different levels of the shark's mouth within this little wood block with my Dremel tool. Yeah, he won best in show, so he got the biggest trophy. So that was kind of cool.
Well, that's nice.
Gannon won the sibling round, which was pretty crazy because he only won 2 of the races. The other kid won the rest of the races, but one of the race he won like by like 4 car lengths, and so that like canceled out like all his like close losses throughout. So yeah, he was thrilled to get first, but he'd been begging me to carve this darn car ever since we got it in December. So yeah, that's a big thing in Cub Scouts. I got 6 more years of it to go.
Well, sounds like it's a lot of fun and a good time overall. So shouldn't be too much of a problem for the next 6 years.
Yeah, hopefully, get a little better each time. We got the one coming up, and so I got to figure out if we're gonna race the same cars or change something up. Ugh, I just get so obsessive about it. Oh, and then of course, so I got some. My wife didn't want me to get spray paint. She had like all these acrylic paints up in the closet, and she's like, "Let's use the acrylic paint." I'm like, "No, I want spray paint because I want like the shiny car." And so I let the boy Gannon's like, I want to use the spray paint. And so we built these little bird feeder things one night. And I was like, oh, he can spray paint this. And so I send them out there and they end up spray painting each other and getting their brand new shoes covered in spray paint. And yeah, that was a rough night for me. Not wise, Justin.
Did you let them spray paint and you weren't there?
Well, I put one in one corner of the backyard with his paint and one in the other corner of the backyard with his paint, and somehow they came together and chaos ensued.
Are you surprised? Because I'm not.
Well, I told them very sternly, you stay over there and you stay over here.
Okay, so let's reevaluate this situation. If this had been you, what the fuck would you have done? The same thing.
I don't know. I feel like I was very careful with paint as a child whenever my father threatened me with I don't threaten my kids at all. So
I'm just saying, if it was you, do you have a brother? I say that having known you since half our lives, and I don't remember if you have siblings.
I have two older sisters.
Okay, so you don't have another brother.
No.
But if it was you and your brother, it wouldn't have mattered if your dad was like, hey, y'all stay over here and, paint you're going to end up, someone's going to be like, I'm going to go spray him. And then it's going to be a spray paint war. Okay. You should have known better, man. Come on.
I was just so because I had just gotten a package with some extra weights for the cars. So I was getting the cars all put together and just thought they'd go in the backyard and do their little spray paint thing. And yeah, that didn't work out in my favor.
Yeah, I'm sure your wife was very pleased that their new shoes were spray painted.
No, she flipped it. She flipped the lid.
Oh, Justin was in the doghouse.
Yeah, so that was not a good night. Ugh. All right, so yeah, we've actually heard from some folks lately. We really appreciate it. I'm gonna read the first one, and then Joey has another one. So Oliver Greer from, which I believe I am friends with on the Letterboxd, said, wow, great podcast, very underrated channel. And he said he subscribed. So we very much appreciate that, Oliver Greer. Make sure to check out his channel or channel on YouTube and Letterboxd account.
All right. So we also got an email from this gentleman named Mick. No, I'm sorry, not Mick. Nick with an N. And he sent in an email saying he had stumbled across a movie he had never heard of and it blew him away. And he's ever since he's been desperately trying to convince everyone else to give it a shot to drag it out of obscurity. And the movie is called The Beast of War, aka The Beast. It's from 1988, directed by Kevin Reynolds, starring George Zadunza, Jason Patrick, and Stephen Bauer. He said it was only released across 2 screens in the U.S. by Columbia Pictures. Quentin Tarantino's old writing partner Roger Avery has it down as the best movie of 1988 on Letterboxd, and also has it down as one of his 20 desert island films, with Apocalypse Now being the only other war film. So I want to give a shout out to Nick for recommending this movie. Maybe we'll get across to it and get a chance to watch it and talk about it, either as an actual movie, like a feature movie for the podcast, or to we'll watch it and we can do it in like the good, the bad, and the ugly, or just shout out that we talked about this movie from this gentleman named Nick.
Yeah, let's aim to do that next time.
So when I remember reading this, I was just like, okay, I think I looked it up on Letterboxd, put it on my watch list, because it did sound pretty interesting.
Right on. Cool. Well, I appreciate that viewer feedback. Keep it coming. We would love to give you shout outs. All right, let's get into the what would you watch game. And I got a little creative this time. Creative in the aspect that you can't actually watch these two movies right now. So I'm curious, if you could watch them, which one would you watch? Would you go with Black Widow or Venom, Let There Be Carnage?
This is the easiest decision I don't know if ever, but this is pretty easy. I'm obsessed with Scarlett Johansson.
Mm-hmm.
So, and she is such a great actress, and it has taken far too long for her to get her own movie. Like, nothing against Venom, nothing against Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy and Woody Harrelson are going to be probably really great together, and Venom was surprisingly better than I expected. But I'm still just waiting patiently to go to the theater to see Black Widow. So
if they had it on Disney Premier Access, you wouldn't be down with that?
I mean, maybe if like me and Carl split it or something, but at like $30, it's cheaper for me as one person
Sure.
to go to the movie theater. Plus, I don't have like a sound system and all that stuff. So like, but if I split it with somebody, then it's about the same as both of us going to the theater. So it's whatever at that point. But
Gotcha. I was thinking about throwing some more movies. So like, okay, so what would be your rank? Like for me personally, I would go with like, I think the Black Widow movies would be good, but yeah, I'm a little more excited to see Carnage on the big screen. I enjoyed the first Venom movie a lot. I know I got a lot of shit, but Venom's one of my favorite characters, so it was great to see him done again. Much better than in Spider-Man 3.
So one, I love spy stuff. So Black Widow is a spy, so you have that going for it. And Venom and Carnage will be great, but there's a third thing that's missing from that.
Spider-Man.
And that's Spider-Man. And like I feel like as good as Venom was, because I thought that movie, like I said, that movie surprised me. It had a lot of humor in it that I wasn't expecting. Obviously, it was quite violent, and I feel like this movie will be quite violent having Carnage. But Venom and Carnage fight Spider-Man, and because Sony somehow kept Venom and Carnage and not Spider-Man, you like, I just feel like something's lacking. Like, I think the movie will be good. I'm excited to watch that movie. Like, you best believe I will watch it, but it's just that's part of the reason why I think it lacks, like, to me, versus Black Widow. And yes, Tom Hardy is a much better Venom than Topher Grace. Like, like Eric Foreman is not Venom. Like, and I'm not mad at him for taking the role. Hell, if I'm only known for being scrawny little neighbor boy, and then they're like, hey, you can be Eddie Brock, you can be Venom in Spider-Man 3 across from Toby and Kirsten. It's like, yes, sign me up, like.
Yeah.
But I don't think he was the best casting. Like he's known for being scrawny and weak, and Eddie Brock was like a jock. So
yeah, like it
I didn't think that, like, it just seemed to clash a lot.
It didn't really bother me at the time, but like comparatively, yeah, I definitely like Tom Hardy in that role better. Now let me ask you. So if I would have actually expanded this to Black Widow, Spider-Man, No Way Home, Thor, Love and Thunder, and then Venom, like how would you rank all of those?
Boy, I am really, because I loved Thor Ragnarok and it's one of my favorite Marvel movies. Like, I'm really looking forward to the new Thor. The new Spider-Man really has my interest piqued because of
the multiverse.
It being the multiverse and seeing where that goes. But I still think I would probably go Black Widow just because it's been so long coming for her to have her movie, and then probably Thor right above Spider-Man, not by a lot, and then Venom.
Okay. I guess I'm most intrigued by Spider-Man and then Venom, and then I guess Black Widow and Thor 4 would be a toss-up. I don't really know what to expect from Love and Thunder, so let's see what they provide.
I imagine he's going to do some loving and then throw a bunch of thunderbolts. Just guessing by the title.
Right on. All right, so let's get into other movies we've been watching lately with the good, the bad, and the ugly.
All right, Justin. So my picks this week are Old Fave, Smith, and The Good.
Okay. And mine are Blast from the Past, Way Better Than I Remembered, and Blown Away.
All right, give me your Way Better Than I Remembered.
Okay, so that's Alien versus Predator. How about that?
Wow, that is a really not a movie I expected from you.
Well, I grew up a huge Alien fan. Like, one of the movies my dad first psyched me up for growing up was the original Alien. And so I remember loving the xenomorphs. Watched Predator a little bit later, not too much later. I absolutely adore the first Predator. I haven't seen Predator 2 as much, but so Fortnite came out with Predator in the game. And so the boys were like, hey, Dad, let's watch Predator. It's like, you don't have to ask me twice. Let's watch some Predator. Obviously, the language and the violence is a bit extreme, but, anyways, moving on. So yeah, AVP. So I'm in the camp of like, I've never complained about a movie. Maybe with Die Hard 4, I was just like, why did they make it PG-13 instead of R? But for the most part, it's never really bothered me when they've gone. Sometimes it's noticeable, like that they maybe watered it down. But so AVP, I didn't mind at all. That was PG-13. I think it really delivers. I mean, it's silly because they go to Antarctica, or I think it's Antarctica, and there's like a pyramid under the ice, and this is this ancient ritual. The predators going against the aliens, and what I really like about this movie is they really treat the aliens with respect. And there's like a lot of predators. They're like younger predators, and the predators are getting kind of jacked up at first, and like the aliens have the upper edge. And you got the queen alien in there. This movie is not as good as Aliens by any means, but it does have a lot of the best stuff that Aliens had. And you get to see a lot of awesome Predator shit and a lot of awesome Alien shit. And I quite enjoyed all of that. And then I followed it up. Of course, we had to watch Requiem next. And I remember why that movie is completely forgettable. Because they turned Alien vs. Predator into a Jason movie. Why? Do you remember Alien vs. Predator Requiem at all?
I never saw Requiem because I watched the first Aliens versus Predator, and I was like, this movie is garbage. Now, this was many, many years ago, and I had only ever, at that point, seen the first Predator, and it had been a while since I had seen that, so I didn't know, like, the lore and, that kind of stuff going into it. So it's probably a movie I should rewatch at some point, especially, having watched Alien and Aliens like in the last year and a half, 2 years, something of that nature. So
yeah, it's a darn shame. Like, I actually looked up what Requiem means, and it has to do with like a funeral. And so I'm like, oh, it's a perfectly named movie because they totally killed the franchise with this. And it's a shame because they got cool looking aliens and cool looking predators, but they're all like in the dark woods and you can't see shit. And then they just kind of make up strange ways to get more aliens. And like, it doesn't even make sense. Like the alien attacks, like they just pop up out of nowhere, and it's terrible. And then like, spoiler, like the end of the movie, the government randomly decides to nuke this town that they're in, like off the face of the earth. Like, oh, well, that was hasty. So, Alien vs. Requiem's trash, but quite enjoyed AVP as a big Alien Predator fan. Yeah, it hit the spot. Enjoyed it quite. I mean, just the opening scene where like the Predator's coming at the alien and Predator like swings alien around and hits some column over there. It's like, oh, I'm entertained. Give me more. So,
All right, good stuff.
all right, what's your Smith?
Smith. That would be as in Kevin Smith.
Ah,
And that would be Zack and Miri Make a Porno. Actually, like right before I got sick, I actually watched Zack and Miri and Clerks like the same night or like back-to-back days or something. Just
Clerks
because
2
I wanted
or 1?
Clerks 2.
Okay.
Because those are my two favorite Smith movies, are Clerks 2 and Zack and Miri Make a Porno. Like I know it's probably blasphemous, but I think Clerks 2 is just a better movie than Clerks 1. It's not as iconic for many reasons, but as an actual movie, it's just better. Plus the whole Lord of the Rings versus Star Wars thing, that the whole racial thing and taking it back. Like there's just so much stuff in there. But I love Zack and Miri. Seth Rogen and Elizabeth Banks have like great chemistry together. She's just hilarious. And there's just so much funny stuff in there with all the other actors and everything. So it's just it's one of those movies I love, and obviously it's not winning Oscars or anything, but it's a good time.
Yeah, nothing wrong with a solid comedy.
Yeah.
All right, so where do you want me to go next?
Let's go with Blast from the Past.
All right, so Blast from the Past. So yeah, occasionally on road trips I'll pull up like a Netflix documentary, because like with a documentary you don't really have to be like staring at the screen, and you can listen to most of it. And so I had heard a lot about this, The Last Dance, which was about the '90s Chicago Bulls, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, the dynasty, the basketball dynasty. And so yeah, I was like, let's pull that up. I want to dive into that. That's a long ordeal, and I think this is the perfect time to knock it out. And it was. I finished it in a couple days. Where do I start? So yeah, some of my finest sports movies or sports moments growing up, even before I was a Vikings fan. I remember my dad would call me over to watch Jordan in the NBA Finals, like take on is it Karl Malone or whatever, and yeah, had good times rooting for those '90s Bulls. I mean, we were Minnesota fans, but I mean the Timberwolves were nothing to really celebrate, and I mean, gosh, Michael Jordan was it. And so I didn't really know much about like his time at UNC. Like I knew about it, but like I didn't know like some of the pivotal games. And I didn't know some like the early years, like when they were getting the shit beat out of them by the Pistons, and then like whenever they beat the Sonics. So I wasn't totally sure. Like I mostly remember the last couple years when they were beating the Utah Jazz, and like it was just really cool to like get the perspective like of the inside story. Like if I was a big fan of this team now, like the stuff I would know. So yeah, it was awesome getting to see that like. And I know, like, I've heard the triangle offense, like, to death, but I didn't really know what it was. And so, yeah, it was cool to hear, like, how they implemented that. I mean, there's this big part about Phil Jackson. There's a big part about Scottie Pippen, how, like, he's, like, one of the most criminally underrated players, like, in NBA history, which is crazy. Dennis Rodman's time with the Pistons, and then whenever he joined the Bulls later, which what I've heard is... it's thanks to Space Jam that Dennis Rodman ended up on the Bulls, because that's when I guess him and Jordan got cool. And yeah, the whole like bailing on basketball and going to baseball. I remember being in like second or third grade when that happened, and yeah, I was always a Michael Jordan fan. It's just crazy, like what he would do to like get himself fired up. Like he would say, like, "Oh man, that coach looked at me wrong. I'm going to beat his ass." And so and I just did not realize how tragic his father's death was. Gosh, I mean, yeah, so it's like 7.5. So how many episodes? There's 10 episodes. So I think they're each. I don't know how long it is altogether, but yeah, definitely worth watching. And sports documentaries, so it's always a good time. So were you into the '90s Bulls at all?
Oh yeah, I was about to say. So like you're our age. We're both gonna turn 36 this year.
Yeah.
That you either loved Michael Jordan and the Bulls or you hated them. And then us being in the South, you either also loved the Atlanta Braves for baseball,
Mm.
and then I thought everybody liked the Dallas Cowboys when we were that age because it's that same time when the triplets were coming along. But yes, that you love them or you hate them.
Yeah.
At least they're not the Packers.
True.
But yeah, no, I was a big Michael Jordan. Like saying that he was a rock star is crazy, like a crazy understatement. Like everyone thinks LeBron is this huge star, and he is, but like there aren't slogans of be like LeBron.
Yeah,
And
like
I'm
Mike.
not saying that like to diss LeBron because he's one of the best basketball players that's ever lived.
Sure.
But Michael Jordan was everywhere. He was Fruit of the Loom. He was Schick or Gillette. He was in movies. He was in cartoons. He was on like every commercial everywhere. Be like Mike. I mean, to the point of, the Jumpman shoe, which is now a separate thing from Nike, but like you had to wear Nikes to be like Mike. Like he was the big deal. I remember when the whole thing happened with his dad, he left and went to play baseball, and it was just that was a big deal when you were a kid. He was like the biggest star of stars.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you got that post. You go into like a sports clips, and you got the arm span of Jordan poster. I mean, they don't have that for Magic. They got it for Jordan. So, I mean,
Yeah,
Magic definitely set a standard, him and Bird, but I mean, I think Jordan kind of toppled that.
Well, I mean, also the fact that who
then-
Jordan beat for his first title.
Oh yeah, Magic, right?
Yeah. So, when they finally, climbed past and got past the bad boys, and then, then they were playing the Celtics, and then they, were able to get past the Celtics, and then it's like, oh, there's Magic. So, I mean, yeah, I mean,
What really surprised me was that epic matchup they had with the Pacers. I didn't realize how freaking on edge that was too.
oh yeah,
Between
with
him and Reggie Miller.
Reggie
yeah.
Miller, yeah, that was big rivalry. And then in the Knicks, I mean, Jordan has kept so many Hall of Fame players from winning titles, like Patrick Ewing. They couldn't get past him.
Barkley.
Barkley. He beat Barkley. He beat Clyde the Glide when he was in Portland. Now, granted, him and Olajuwon got their titles in Houston the 2 years that Jordan was playing basketball. But
Okay.
Carl and John Stockton, they didn't get titles. Penny Hardaway, Grant Hill, or Shaquille
Oh
O'Neal,
yeah, that's
all
right.
down
That
in Orlando.
Yeah, that Magic
Yeah,
team.
no, yeah. I mean, and that was a killer team. He kept teams from getting like big players from getting titles. Now, obviously, Shaq ended up with like 5 titles
Yeah.
later, but that was young Shaq. But then Shaq and Kobe happened, and yeah, so
So, yeah. Wish I appreciated basketball more than I do now, but do you still follow it?
I follow it some here and there, on the internet. I used to follow it a lot more back when I had cable, and I would watch Sports Center all the time. And if I was channel surfing and a game was on, I would definitely watch it. I still say, if like it was like, hey, who's your basketball team? It would be the Bulls. I couldn't tell you probably a single person on their roster anymore. But like I remember when they drafted Carlos Boozer. Or no, I think they signed him as a free agent because I think he came from Denver. But then they got Derrick Rose, and he won the MVP, and then he just kept getting injured and injured. Yeah. And then they had Noah, Joakim Noah, who came from the Gators, for a while. So I kept up with it here some, but like I don't even really hardly get to keep up with college football anymore. Just because I work the weekends, we don't have cable, so. The only thing I would want cable for would be sports, but I just don't have the time to watch it with the job that I have. If I had like a 9 to 5 or something, it'd be a little different. But
For a couple years there, I was working at the TV station, actually punching the games during the NBA Finals, so I would watch most of it. But I think one of the most exciting ones was because I like Kevin Garnett because he's from South Carolina, and then he ended up in the Timberwolves, and then over at the Celtics. So it was cool to see the Celtics and the Lakers go head to head because for some reason I just was not into when the Lakers were getting all their championships. Post Jordan era. What was Kobe? Rest in peace. So, anyways,
yeah, it was Kobe and Shaq and all them. But I think when they played them, Shaq had already left for Miami, and it was like Kobe and Pau Gasol up against the big three of Boston.
Yep.
So
Three Amigos, I think they called them at the time.
Yeah. So
cool. All right. What's your old fave?
Old favorite. That's going to be. I actually had a decision between two movies for this one, but I ended up going with Pitch Perfect. It's actually one of the movies I watched while I was sick. But I just never thought a movie about acapella would just get me freaking hyped. But every time I watch that movie, I feel good. It goes a little meta when dude starts talking about different movies and their soundtracks and talking about The Breakfast Club, and then that circles back around to the end. Also, Anna Kendrick is freaking amazing, but so is Anna Camp and Brittany Snow and Rebel Wilson. Like all the girls in there, they just do such a phenomenal job making you care about acapella. So yeah.
It's been forever since I've seen the first one. I enjoyed the first one. Man, the third one was awful, but the second one was a good time.
Yeah, the second one, oddly enough, I was watching part of an interview with Anna Kendrick on Kimmel or something, and she was advertising, she was promoting a different movie, but they're talking about how that's technically the highest grossing musical of all time, or at least at the time that interview was. And, Anna Kendrick was like, well, if you ask me, it's not a musical. It's a music movie, but it's not a musical because a musical, the characters don't know that they're singing, and they're singing, it progresses the story. Or in this movie, there are people who are singing, and that's usually that. I mean, when I think of a musical, I think of something where they don't know they're singing, and the singing progresses the storyline.
Okay.
But so I kind of agree with her there. But it's a cool thing to have that's the highest grossing musical of all time.
Right on. Yeah, those are fun movies. Good music.
Three I don't remember as much. I'm trying to remember, was it 2 or 3 that had Das Sound Machine?
That was 2.
Also, so that one was good, and you also had like Clay Matthews showed up. So that was
acapella battle or whatever.
Yeah, in the riff off. So, all right. Well, what blew you away, Mr. Peterson?
So I'm in a movie club with a guy named Marvin123. Shout out to him. He had me finally watch Searching, which is this. Is his name? What? He's from Harold and Kumar. Is it Chow? John Chow, I want to say.
That sounds right. Yeah.
So forgive me if I messed up his name, but I think that's it. So this is like one of the best gimmick movies I've seen. So it have you seen it?
I have not.
It all takes place like on a computer screen. And so like this guy and his wife dies, and like he's having trouble connecting with his daughter, and like, she disappears, and like he's trying to track her down like through social media, and there's like parts where like he's typed like before she goes missing, like he's typing to her, and he's like, well, maybe that's a little bit too harsh, and like he backtracks, and like you see like his thought process through like the way he interacts with the computer, and then like you see like the news coverage start coming out of her, and like the whole like the elements of social media, like where he goes and like asks these people like he thought was her friends, like where is she? She's like, I don't know. I didn't know her that well. But then like whenever it's big news that she's missing, like they're like, oh, she was my best friend, and oh, heart, and hope she's okay and stuff. And There's lots of good twists and turns, some good red herrings in there. Kept me guessing. I was on the edge of my computer watching it. This guy searching for his daughter on a computer. There's meta for you. Yeah, I thought it was a great mystery thriller with a real cool gimmick. I don't think I've seen any other movies that's all based on a computer screen. I know there's like a lot of like what Unfriended and stuff that kind of does that. But yeah, I was really impressed at how this was able to tie it all together. And like, there's one part where like he thinks it's this one person, so he sets up all these like hidden cameras, and it plays out there, and then like while he's arguing with this person, like he's getting like a call from like the investigator, and it's a whirlwind. Highly recommend searching.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. I'll have to add that to the list.
The long list.
Yeah, the ever-growing list that will never be finished.
Yeah. Nor would you ever want it to be.
That's true. I mean, right. I would like to get through the movies, but just keep adding more. So it's just
Yep.
Recycling.
All right, so what's your the good?
To the surprise of no one who knows me or has listened to this podcast, it's a samurai movie.
Couldn't be a show without one.
Samurai Rebellion is its name.
Okay.
It's half the Dream Team. It's not Kurosawa and Mifune, but it is Mifune. Okay. And it is a Criterion. Huh? So it takes a while to get to where it's going. It has this really big build up, and you've got these two guys that shows them in the beginning, and like the lord of their area is like, hey, you guys should fight each other because y'all are both like total fucking badasses. And they're just like, nah, we're happy, content with our station. But it ends up leading to Mifune's family like ends up rebelling against the Lord, and he's trying to leave with his granddaughter and go to Kyoto. And the other guy is the guardian of the gate, and they end up having this big showdown fight, and they just it builds and just builds and builds to this big climactic ending. I highly recommend it. I think we streamed it off of the Criterion channel. Okay. So it's if you've got the Criterion channel, it's easy to watch.
Right on. Yeah. So I had been doing the Criterions in order, and so up next I got Samurai 2 and 3. How would you like rank those ones?
Well, we've watched Samurai 1 because that's in our movie shuffle that we have where we're flipping movies. Mm-hmm. And so we watched the first one, put the card back in. The first one was fantastic. There was a part where dude's like running through, and where I'm just like, bruh, that's Ghost of Tsushima, which for those who aren't familiar, was the big samurai game that was just an ode to old samurai movies, especially Kurosawa, as it actually has a black and white mode called Kurosawa mode. Mm-hmm. But so Samurai 1, I absolutely loved and thought it was really good. And I do believe, and I'm gonna go double check because I haven't looked at this much because of not being sick, haven't watched as much. Mm-hmm. Pull this up real quick.
So have you seen Samurai 2 yet?
Not yet. Oh, okay. So I actually have Samurai 1 as my number 4 movie currently, and Samurai Rebellion, the movie we were just talking about, at 5. But okay. I have not seen 2 or 3. But we will hopefully soon get to see those. So
yeah, I need to they're like the ones I need to in order to progress in the order. I'm not going in order, but I'm trying to get some of the order done as well. So yeah, seeing if you could motivate me to watch 2. But I mean, they sound good. I mean, they're like Showdown on an island and Showdown at a temple or whatever. Don't know the names off the top of my head, but
oh yeah, no, I've actually bought them blind. One of maybe my second Criterion sale, or maybe I think it was the first one where I went like crazy and bought more than one, and I was just like, it's 3 samurai movies. for like $20. Yeah, I'll take this. It's like, is it a samurai movie in the Criterion Collection? Yeah, I'll take it.
Cha-ching. All right.
Basically.
All right. Set us up for your guilty pleasure movie here.
All right, so now we're on to our featured movie, motherfucking Roadhouse. And that was Justin's pick from the category I gave him, which was memorable performance by a wrestler that was not Hulk Hogan or Dwayne Johnson. And then I decided to do something a little different here. We never really have done this, but I looked up a few facts and picked a couple that I liked that I figured, maybe we add a little bit more flavor to what we're talking about. So,
Okay.
first off, it said, and before anybody says comes in and is like, oh well, blah 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 blah, this isn't true. Like I didn't do like hardcore fact checking. I Googled facts about the movie. So if something's wrong, my bad. But I took the ones that kind of sounded cool. So all of the actors did their own stunts. And there's quote, you hear all that bullshit about it's all stunt doubles and all that shit. Well, it isn't. Sam Elliott told the AV Club. He said, it's all the actors, as far as I know, did their own fighting. I fucking got the shit kicked out of me for the entire film. They were all trained by Benny the Jet Urquidez, a holder of 9 different black belts in 9 different disciplines. And he believed so much in Patrick Swayze's abilities that he suggested that Swayze should become a competitive kickboxer. To keep in mind, Chuck Norris was an actual competitive kickboxer, world champion. So, second one I picked up was the fired bartender from The Double Deuce was played by a gentleman named John Doe, but he's better known to music fans as the founder of the punk band X. I thought that was pretty cool that, there was another real band in the movie, but he had created a band as well. Okay. So Swayze hated his mullet, as much as everyone liked his mullet. He hated it, and his biographer, Wendy Lee, quoted him as saying it was the bane of his existence. And then the last one that I put here. So you ever watched a trailer and they show you something, and then you get to the movie theater and that scene's just not in the movie at all?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Roadhouse has the unofficial record where there's at least 5 different clips that don't appear in the finished version of this movie.
Oh, should check out that trailer.
Yeah, I probably should look at the trailer and see what's up. But that's kind of crazy that there's 5 different clips. Just basically the whole trailer is a lie.
Huh. So what makes this your favorite guilty pleasure movie, or one of them?
Like I said, I don't really like to use the term guilty pleasure because I don't think that anyone should really be ashamed. Like if you like something, fly that flag proudly. I couldn't think of a better terminology. It's one of those movies that, it's not a good movie, but it is good because it's so entertaining. Because when you critique movies, people look at cinematography and, the acting and, all these different things. But, you can take a movie that has some of the best, best shots and best framing and the actors are all great. And then the movie puts you to fucking sleep. And it's like, I want to be entertained by movies. And, a movie can have a deep meaning to it and it can, tell a really in-depth story or even have a message or whatever and still be entertaining. And a lot of those movies, a lot of them you're talking about watching the Oscar movies, there's a lot of those Oscar bait movies that I want to fall asleep in. And some that I don't, it just really depends. But this is just one that, growing up, it was always on TBS, or TNT or FX or, whatever. And it's just one of those things. It's very similar. I've talked about how much I like Bloodsport and Kickboxer and the fact also I love Point Break, and so Swayze's in both movies. So it's just one of those things. I just grew up always watching it. I will say it did really surprise me the first time I watched it, on DVD or Blu-ray, as opposed to having always watched it on TBS. This is a much different movie.
Well, I bet. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, there's a lot of nudity in this.
Yeah, there's nudity. The dude getting his throat ripped out.
Yeah.
For a nice fuck call. Being changed to a nice Buick.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, there's a lot of differences.
Um, yeah, I hadn't seen this Swayze flick before, obviously. I'd seen Ghost before, Dirty Dancing a couple times, so I'm definitely used to Swayze being the more in the chick films. And this kind of felt like a hybrid, almost. Like, it's very 80s. And there's a lot of stuff for the gals, and there's a lot of stuff for the guys, too. So it kind of felt like it tried to be like the ultimate, like, date movie. So I was feeling that, and like the purple font in the opening was like, huh, that's an interesting touch. And yeah, Swayze kind of looks like a pretty boy at first, but once he rips that shirt off and starts doing his kung fu moves, it kind of turns more into a guy flick. So
Dude, he has so many abs. Oh my god. It's just abs on top of abs on top of abs on top of abs, and you're just like, he has he looks like a damn wrestler or a bodybuilder or something. Like, where all these damn abs come from?
And those cheesy ass 80s shirts that he was wearing with sport jackets.
Oh yeah, dude. Like, I love 80s movies. Like 80s and like early 90s movies. Like, they're my jam. Like, they're so usually bad, but just you see the style and the music, and with all this big nostalgia. So
nice.
All right. So Synopsis, and this is from Wikipedia, is a 1989 American action film directed by Rowdy Harrington. It stars Patrick Swayze. He plays a cooler at a newly refurbished roadside bar who protects a small town in Missouri from a corrupt businessman. He plays in Jasper, Missouri, right outside of Kansas City.
Okay.
Yeah. So you got the opening. You got I think it's a vet, if my memory serves me. Vet drives up, and it's one of the fancy ones where the lights come up and down and shit. And then like this like super hot chick gets out the car, and it like follows her into the bar. And at the same time, you see this dude getting out of like the airport limo, and he's dressed up kind of nice. So you're like, all right, this dude's he's rich. Obviously, he's getting out of freaking limo.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes into the bar. And you kind of different things going on in the bar, and then you see Dalton, Patrick Swayze, and he's doing the thing that he does a lot in this movie, which is he's kind of like leaned up against something and he's just observing.
Yeah.
What's
not nodding his head to the music. So you said this opening bar was in New York City?
Yeah, it's in New York City.
Did they say that?
Well, I don't know if it's in NYC. It's in New York.
Oh, okay.
Because they show his license plate to his Mercedes.
Ah.
And it's a New York license plate, if my memory serves. Or they say that it's in New York, but I'm pretty sure it was the license plate.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's in like New York City proper, but it's in New York.
So yeah, I would definitely characterize this as like Bar Fight, the movie.
Oh. Yeah, they could have just called this Bar Fight, the movie, and that's all you really need to know.
And I was kind of looking for like a bar to actually be called the Roadhouse, but that doesn't exist in this movie. It's just kind of called Roadhouse, and they don't even say that throughout the whole movie. That's just what it's called.
Yeah, it's me and Carl have this running joke, when they say the name of a movie in the movie, you're like, roll credits. Yeah, it's like roll credits, but that doesn't happen. The bar's the Double Deuce.
Yeah.
But whatever, it's fine. It ends up working. Look, he's on a roadside bar, so he's at it's the Roadhouse. It's the house of the road. Yeah.
Now the Double Deuce at first definitely looks kind of like a Roadhouse. It kind of looks like a freaking like a Logan Steakhouse with it all wood and trashy looking floor.
And then by the end, it's like been made up and remodeled, and it's like
we'll get there. We'll get there.
So, but yeah, there's a bar fight there, and the dude who comes in the limo, and I'm bad with names, and I don't remember any except for like 3 in this movie. But the dude who owns the Double Deuce, rolls up and he's like, "Hey man, I got a bar outside of Kansas City. I need it to be cleaned up. Blah blah blah." He's like, "I want the best." And Dalton's like, "Well, Wade something or other, he's the best." And he's like, "Well, he's old. I want you." And he's like, "All right, $5,000 up front, $500 a night, and you pay all the medical bills." And he's like, "Okay." You can think about this. This is 1989. That's $5,000 up front. $500 a night is, if you works 5 days a week, $2,500. That's 25 plus 25 makes 5,000, and then 5,000 plus 5,000 for the other 2 weeks. So he's making $10,000 a month. He would, if he did that for a year, would be making $120,000 as the lead bouncer, as the cooler in 1989. Guess that explains the Mercedes.
Yeah. To stand up there and, chill to the music and occasionally kick some ass.
Yeah, and probably get hit on all the time. There was another fact I didn't put in there, was that the extras, like a lot of the lady extras would get distracted and spill drinks in the background on other actors. In the river, there was a group of women who were driving a boat with signs and were screaming at Swayze and flashing him, and they had to reshoot a scene because of it. Yeah.
So the guy who plays the one who hires him is Kevin Feige, and it's funny because I swear I've seen him in a bunch of other movies where he's always the villain. So it's very strange seeing him be a nice guy in this. It's I'm used to. I'm thinking is this, is he getting into an okay situation here? Is he getting baited into something nefarious? So I'm not sure if you got that vibe at all from him.
I mean, yeah, you definitely. I think he's gonna you feel like he's gonna be not a good dude, and then he ends up,
Yeah, he's a straight shooter.
Literally, yeah, he just wants. He just wants this bar to be successful.
Yep. That quote, my favorite quote of the movie. I thought you would be bigger.
Yeah, and it's a running thing throughout the movie because he's not a huge dude, especially when you put him beside. I think his name in the movie is Pat. Hold on, I will tell you.
There's some big old dudes that they go throw at him.
Do they really not have the whole reason that we're watching this movie listed here? I guess not. There he is. Morgan. His name's Morgan, not Pat. Put him beside Terry Funk, the wrestler, which is while we're watching this movie. Yep. And it's he's not that big. But it's funny because Terry Funk wasn't that big of a wrestler, but when you put him beside just a regular actor or something, it's he's a big dude.
One of the guys, in the scene where they're fighting by the alcohol truck, man, there was a giant guy in that scene, I recall.
Oh yeah, dude, they brought the beef for that for sure. And one of those was Terry Funk was in that same scene as well. So
yeah.
So he goes to leave. You see him driving this really old Buick. He parks it in front of what turns out to be a parking garage, and he throws the keys at a homeless guy. And he's like, "You think I'm the valet?" And he's like, "Nah, it's yours. Keep it." And then he, takes the cover off the car. It had not been sitting there 3 years and got scratched and wasn't worth it for him to do it. Just, but he, cuts it on. It's the Mercedes. Starts driving because he doesn't like to fly because it's not safe. So he ends up, next thing you know, you see him in Jasper. They show the he's pulling into the bar, and he doesn't come in introducing himself. He's coming in, to kind of spy and scope it out. And that's where you see somewhere in there is the scene where the owner is for a good fuck, and he changes it to a good Buick. But you also see they show Terry Funk for the first time. as one of the like basically the lead bouncer.
Hey, it's Dalton.
Yeah,
He already has a reputation.
yeah, he has a big reputation. Like the one of the main waitresses, like ask his name or what. I was like, "Do you have a name?" And he's like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Well, what is it?" And he's like, "Dalton." And she's like, "Oh my God, I know who you are." And like starts freaking out. But then shit just goes haywire at the bar.
Yeah, it's a pretty crummy looking place, and yeah, constantly bar fights. And I think the chicken wire barrier for like the band was the thing that stood out most to me.
Yeah, you had the chicken wire to protect Cody, who's his name in the movie. That's Jeff Healey and the Jeff Healey Band. They actually apparently
Okay.
had a pretty big single going on at the time of the movie that wasn't related to the movie. But
Yeah, he was a pretty good singer, but his acting was a little meh.
well, if you're a musician and not an actor, that's understandable, I guess.
Sure.
But he also drops the line, I thought you'd be bigger.
Yep. At first,
Right
I thought they
after.
were brothers, so they were just like friends.
Yeah. They're boys.
Yeah.
But he's like, you play pretty good for a blind white boy, and he's like, oh, and I thought you'd be bigger. But this is after like all the chaos. He sees like a woman selling drugs, and just one of the bouncers is letting these two get fight. He's like, they're brothers, and just lets them keep fighting. Like it's not a place you would want to go.
No.
No, it's like I need to get a beer. I'm not going to that place. So, but yeah, he goes and talks to Cody and gets the scoop. They're like a blood out of everywhere. It's horrible. Blah blah blah. So you find out that they've had some sort of relationship in the past.
Yeah. Speaking of shenanigans in the bar, what that guy's just like, hey, you can pay me and you can kiss my wife's tits, and like she kind of pulls out her bra or whatever. He starts like fondling her boobs there at the table. It's just like, what is going on here? And he's just like, hey, are you gonna kiss him or not? He's like, I don't have any money, and another fight ensues.
Oh yeah, it's and then he the boss man calls him up there, and Dalton up there, and they talk, and then the next thing you see is hey, Dalton's gonna be what Dalton says goes. He's the big deal, and Dalton's like, hey, it's my way or the highway. He tells Terry Funk to kick rocks because he doesn't have the temperament for it, and he's like, look, be nice.
Yep.
What if they do this? You be nice. You be nice until it's time to not be nice. And he was like, is there anybody who can't handle this? They need to leave now. And then you go to
he fires the Terry Funk guy like right off the bat, right?
Yeah, like at the very beginning. And then I think either maybe before that scene or right after that scene, you see him buying another beater Buick and a whole bunch of extra tires.
Yeah.
And then they do the second day of work, and he notices that the barkeeper is scamming money. So he's like, you're out of here. And he's like, I didn't hear it from you, talking to the owner. And the owner's like, yeah, get the hell out of here. And he's like, this is a mistake. Turns out that guy is related to Brad Wesley, who I think we've already been introduced to. We're just a little out of order. But Brad Wesley is like the big shot of the town.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, you made a mistake. So, and where we got introduced to him is you see Dalton looking for a room to rent, and he's renting it above this barn of this older gentleman. And right across the barn there's a river, and all of a sudden you see a helicopter, and the old guy's like, I swear he does that just to piss me off. So, and that's where you meet Brad Wesley, the rich, evil douchebag.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and then you got a line here back in the be nice conversation.
Yep. Yeah, that definitely stood out to me. You wouldn't picture bouncers being like overly nice, but yeah, it never really comes back in the movie. But it's cool how that's like the mindset to begin with, and then they're really forced to have to like really have to step up their game as bouncers in order to, because they're basically getting picked on the whole time by the rich guy and his thugs.
Yeah, but yeah, so it's like someone calls you a cocksucker. Be nice, and he's like, what if someone it's just two nouns together to elicit a response, and the dude's like, what if someone calls my mama a hoe? Is she? Like, yeah, and he's really got this, this philosophy down pat because essentially the be nice. He's trying to not escalate the situation until it's time to escalate the situation,
And
it's
if
like
it does, take it out of the bar.
Yeah, take it out of the bar. So now you don't have a big ass bar fight going.
Yep.
Like even to the point of some guys that are like, "Hey, we want to fight," and it's like, "Let's go outside," and then they just walk away, and just they're like, "Haha, we got you, dumb." So, and then you see him. He goes to, which is literally across the street from the Double Deuce, to Red's Auto Parts. And it's just this older gentleman.
Because somebody cracked his windshield, right?
Yeah, his windshield had a giant hole through it. I think they threw a stop sign or something through it. That might have been later because his car gets fucked up a whole bunch. And he's like, it's not worth it to get the that beater, the windshield replaced. And he's like, yeah, I like it. Order it for me. And they start talking, and you can tell the Red's a good dude, and he really likes Dalton. And then you see, I think this is the first time you see Homeboy with the cross earring, and that's the sign, 80s 90s bad guy, the one cross earring, and it's like, yep, he's gonna be the badass, or kind of
comes
deal
in a little later.
I thought, well, two of the thugs come in that first scene as he's leaving, and then they cut and you don't really see anything. But he was definitely there when they left, when he saw like the robbery or the
first time I remember seeing him is whenever the rich guy kind of crashes the bar and he like brings that girl in to do the whole striptease thing, and then
he's definitely there before that, because
yeah,
they have built it up a couple of times that you see him and he doesn't really say or do much. He was there when like they come in and they're like, y'all messed up the job. I paid you to do like one job. Like, which one of you sorry? And Tinker's like, I'm sorry. And he's like, well, I believe you that you're sorry. And then he beats the living hell out of, I won't say beats the hell out of him, but beats him up. Yeah. One of the other guys. And he's like, get him out of here. So.
But yeah, basically, I guess from the auto parts store guy, it's basically like he iterates to Dalton that like, yeah, he's like the big tycoon in town, and if you're not willing to, do whatever he says, then, he's going to have a grudge against you. And so, like, the guy who owns Reds is one of the people who wants to stand up to him, and, he pays for it.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, this part really caught my attention. So, Dalton's like, I think he's checking on one of his bouncers or something, and the dude's, he's getting it on in the back room, but he's not just getting on, he's like bare ass getting it on. Like, it's like, you wouldn't be a little bit more discreet than just like throw off your clothes and just start doing it in the stock room. But yeah, he's doing in some bare ass boning back there, and it gets him fired.
Yeah, because he's like, well, I'm on my break, and he's like, stay on it. But I guess the way the bar had been running previously is like, yeah, I'm just gonna screw this chick. So and then there's another bar fight, and Dalton gets cut on the ribs, so he goes to the hospital, which is strange because back in the bar fight in New York, he got cut and he sewed himself up, which was on the arm. The ribs is going to be a little bit harder.
Yeah.
And he has his like whole medical history with him that he shows the doctor, which is her name's Elizabeth Clay. But they mostly call her the Doc throughout the movie.
Yep, and she's hot, and so of course they're gonna hook up.
Oh, yeah, she's hot.
She's like 80s, like glam hair, kind of,
Bro, yeah. Real. Like if 1989, that chick had walked up to me and I was grown and she was like, "Let's go." It wouldn't have been a second hesitation. But that's where he utters the line, "Pain don't hurt." Not pain doesn't hurt. Pain don't hurt.
Kind of reminds me of Days of Thunder, where Tom Cruise hooks up with his doctor or whatever. So it's kind of a little tropey for these kind of movies, hooking up with the doc.
And he's like, hey, come by the bar sometime. I'll take you for some coffee or something. Um, and of course, she does a little bit later, and just right after he beats some people up outside in the parking lot, and then they go on their date. So
Yep. And
yeah,
then, oh, go ahead.
so they go on their date, and they're like at a diner, and they come back in like her Jeep, and his car is just messed up again. He's already changed all the tires out one time. I think that's where the stop sign was through the windshield, through the hole that was already in the windshield. And she was like, "Your fan club?" And he's like, "Yeah."
And then I think the one of the bartenders like comes to check on him, like one of the girl ones, and like, yeah, he just gets out of bed, and so we get to see Swayze butt, and so yeah, this movie definitely aims to please both guys and girls.
Yeah, and then she like brings him, like, you can't really see what it is, but I think it's like an egg McMuffin or something. And he's just like, he kind of has this disgusted look on his face, but then he takes the coffee and is smoking. Um,
Then we get a little bit of Kung Fu Swayze action as he, takes his shirt off, and we
I
see.
was doing the Tai Chi outside.
Yeah. And then I want to call him the pathetic posse. Like, so what's it? Wesley is the rich guy.
Yeah, Brad Wesley is his name.
Yeah. So he sends like his goons over to pick a fight, saying, "Hey, you did the wrong thing here." And the first couple times, yeah, they dispose of him pretty easy. Beat up the pathetic posse pretty easily.
Yeah, one of them comes in with the knife blade and he like pulls it off, and but yeah, the first few times they kind of get through the posse pretty easily, and then we get to Red's place gets destroyed, like it explodes.
Yeah. They're using C4 for those things. Jeez, some big ass explosions in this movie.
Sorry. Before when he goes in the second time and sees that he's been knocked over and he has to pay Brad Wesley, he sees a picture of the doc in the store, in Red's store, and you find out later on that that's like her uncle.
Okay.
And after the store blows up, and they're having like a meeting, and it's a couple of other business owners, and they're all like, "You can rebuild. I'll loan you money." And he's like, "Nah. Brad Wesley wants this place. I'm getting out." And he's like, "Well, you got insurance, don't you?" And comes back. That comes back later.
Yep.
So at that point, Swayze calls Wade, the gentleman earlier, and it's Sam fucking Elliott.
Yeah, man.
And
there once was a dude, and there once was a man. They called him Dalton.
Yeah, and he's got his cadence and everything, and he's like, he ends up having to leave to go back to doing the same thing, being a cooler. But then he shows up a little while later on a motorcycle at the Double Deuce, and he's like, "Hey, there's a scrawny little runt named Dalton work around here." They're like, "Oh yeah, he's out back doing the liquor truck." And that's where at this point, the bar is starting to get a lot nicer. There's a lot less fights. There's no more chicken cage. But Brad Wesley, because of his uncle, because of them firing his nephew, has basically told all the distributors around to not deliver any liquor. Mm-hmm. And so Dalton's like, "I'll handle it." And so a truck shows up, and then the goon squad shows up to make sure that the booze don't get delivered, so this bar can't run.
Yeah, they start throwing them all over the place. Crazy shit.
Yeah, and so they actually are holding him and just beating the hell out of Dalton when Sam Elliott comes out, and then he beats the hell out of them. They save the liquor, and you see them meet and like reunite, and then so you got
one part that really stood out to me is at one point Wesley calls Dalton over to his estate, talk mano y mano. And oh my gosh, this guy must have spent half of his life in Africa. Either that or he's, got African game stuffed animal taxidermy on speed dial or whatever, because his house is totally full of it. It's crazy as how much freaking stuffed animals or, taxidermied animals he has. I think that one room has all these antelopes on the wall, and then two pool 2 pool tables. So and then unfortunately, oh, go ahead.
So yeah, you see the 2 pool tables and like the balls are lined up kind of weird, but the there's a scene we skipped over that ties into this one. So there's a blonde girl that has like been eyeing Dalton,
Yeah.
and she comes up to Dalton and she's like, "What if I said I wanted you to come back to my place to fuck, and told you might even enjoy it?" Well, then one of the goons, like pulls her off, and then you see her like in the next scene when he goes um to
Visit
Wesley's
Wesley.
house.
Yeah.
She's got a black eye.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's the hell beat out of her. So, but no, this was a really good scene. I liked it a lot because he starts telling this story about how he came back, I guess, from Korea and built this town up from nothing, and like J.C. Penney's coming here because of me. J.C. Penney is coming here because of me. And then he starts trying to tell Dalton they're not that different, and then he's like, so how much money would it take for you to clean up a bar for me? And he walks out and is like, no amount of money. And it's basically, you can't fucking buy me. Like,
it's another trope. I think I'm not sure. So like the douchebag, rich guy, bad guy. I mean, it seems like they're always talking like mano a mano to like the hero, like in like a screened back porch or whatever. Was that jive with your memory?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, it seems. I mean, you always got to hang out on the back porch because no one can see what you're doing.
Yeah.
They can see what you're doing. Remember, because you can see them on the front porch, the whole front yard from across the river. Like when he had that party and all the people were skinny dipping in the pool, you could see that. So.
Yep. And now we go back to a Double Deuce, and oh my gosh, what was it like? Extreme Makeover Bar Edition showed up. I mean, this place is bigger. It has like a line in front. You go in there, and it's like totally made over. It's just like, whoa, who spiffed this place up?
Oh yeah, it got real nice now. And I think that at that point is where Dalton, Wade both take the doc out. Kind of all 3 of them, and he's like, hey, this is dude's like my father figure basically. He's like my brother, whatever. And so they go out and they stay out like all night, going to a couple different places, and they go to like this place for breakfast. And Wade dances with the doc to I believe it's George Strait sings "All My Exes Live in Texas." I could be wrong, but "All My Exes Live in Texas" is the song that they're dancing to. And then you hear the conversation. Oh, it is between Wade and Swayze, or Wade and Dalton, but during Dalton's altercation with Brad Wesley in that mano-a-mano conversation, he talks about, well, I got a cousin down in Memphis. I know you killed a guy. You claimed it was self-defense at the trial, blah, blah, blah. So they start, that starts coming up, and he's like, man, it's going to be bad. And he's like, man, don't let that shit from Memphis, like, hang over your head. He's like, if a motherfucker's got a gun to your head, your choice is die or you kill him. So, so at some point, he's in Memphis doing the same thing, and he was with some woman that he didn't know was married, and it's like, it was you or him. So you see that, and you see that's like weighing on Swayze, and I think it's like why he's trying to always stay so cool. So
cool to see Keith David as the bartender now. I think we only see him in one scene, but still, it's Keith David.
He's not in there for very long, but yeah. So
cool. I think this is about the time whenever Wesley goes up into the Double Deuce and is just like, hey, I'm gonna pick a fight with the. Go ahead.
Does he go into the bar first, or does he destroy the Ford dealership first? I think he destroys the Ford dealership first. I can't remember.
Okay. One of the two. Yeah, I was just getting at the fact that this is the part I think we alluded to earlier where he goes up in there, and I think one of his girls like goes and like basically turns it into a strip club.
Yeah, the same blonde girl that had asked Dalton to fuck earlier. She's like, "Can I play? Can I dance?" And he's like, "Sure." And she goes up and gets on the stage, And then yeah, she ends up stripping. She like takes her shirt and throws it as Dalton. As Dalton's trying to get her down, she takes some guy's hat and has it over her boobs. And then um, I think Dalton says something about like, if you've got a pet, you should keep him on a leash. And that's when the badass with the cross earring comes out, and he's like, hey, come on, yeah, he's got the pull stick. And so a couple of the bouncers go up and start fighting him, and then the whole place erupts into a big brawl that they're trying not to have in there. And then he calls out Wade. He's like, me and you, old man, and they're fighting, and he's getting the better of Wade, and like Swayze catches his leg, and he's like, I'm gonna fuck you up. So like this showdown's coming.
Yep.
And then either before or after this, you see they've had a monster truck like this whole movie, and because the Ford dealership was the guy like trying to tell Red he'd help him rebuild, he runs the monster truck through his Ford dealership.
Yeah.
And this is about the time that you found out that Brad Wesley had a thing for Elizabeth, or the doc, and she had left and then came back, and like when she left, apparently he had went crazy. And she tries to talk him out of it, destroying this place, and then he destroys the place. And then that's when like Wade starts trying to tell Dalton they maybe should leave. Dalton's with Elizabeth. They're throwing down for I think the second time at this point in the movie, and there's just a big explosion at the main house. And they save the old man, and then they see the badass driving off on a dirt bike, and somehow Dalton takes some angle and chases him down on the dirt bike, and they start fighting on the riverbank. And Homeboy's like beating Dalton's ass. He's like, hey, I used to fuck guys like you in prison. And he hits him with a log, like a piece of wood, and Patrick Swayze thought he was going to get hit with like a gimmick piece of wood. No, he hit him with a real log and like fucked him up.
Oh goodness.
For real. Yeah. Swayze got really hurt in this movie. He had to like drain his knee afterwards, like 2.5 liters of fluid, and he had to do that after Dirty Dancing as well. So like he had some knee problems, but I guess he was just working so much he couldn't get it taken care of.
So not to get too far ahead, that monster truck scene, of course those cars were positioned perfectly within the dealership for that, to work out perfectly for the monster car crushing all of them. But man, that hurt me. I was just like devastated for that car dealership owner at that point. I was like, dang, that's rough.
You got insurance, don't you?
Yeah, there you go. And then Wade checks in on Dalton, and Dalton's in the barn, like punching this, it's like a board, and then there's like a pad on it, and he's hitting it like kind of reminded me of some Rocky IV training sequence in a barn. So you got Dalton getting ready to throw down with these guys, and that awesome bank fight. I'll let you proceed there.
Yeah, so like you said, you got the fire in the background, and they're fighting against the riverbank.
Yeah.
And Dalton finally turns the table on him, and then just rips his throat out. Like literally, he just takes it, grabs his throat, rips it out. Homeboy falls in the river. Elizabeth runs up. She's all freaking out that he just murdered this guy. And granted, this guy was trying to murder him. Oh, well,
he pulls out a gun.
Beating his ass. He pulls out a gun and has a gun at his face. And so it's if a gun at you, we go back to if there's a dude's pointing a gun at you, it's you or him. So he kicks the gun, rips his throat.
Yeah,
but now the doc does it.
So that's the first of 2 times in the movie where Swayze does the little crescent kick and knocks the gun out of the hand. So we'll watch out for that a little later too.
And now Elizabeth, like, she doesn't really want anything to do with him. So he starts yelling at Wesley across the river. It's where you can see the body. So now,
So Wesley like tricks him into like thinking like he has to pick either Elizabeth or Wade. Because he's gonna kill one of them, like Dark Knight style.
He's like heads or tails, and he kind of ignores him. And then Wade shows up, and he's he's beat to shit, and he's like, well, it was 3-on-1 jumping, and he's like, hey, have a beer. I got to go do something, and we're getting the fuck out of here. Mm-hmm. So he goes to the hospital, and she's like, no, why do you think I need you to save me or something of that nature? Basically tells him to just go get bent. So then you see him, he's back at the Double Deuce, and he's like, hey man, I told you one beer, and then we were hitting the road. And then you see Wade on the bar, and he flips him over, and there's a big ass Bowie knife in his chest. It was like it was tails. So takes the knife, jumps in his Mercedes, and just fucking speeds out of there.
I don't know if you felt it too, but like for some reason, like during this part of the movie, I'm like, geez, how is he gonna like it really kind of felt like hopeless for him at that point. Like I knew he's a badass, like, but for some reason, like I felt like he was kind of outmatched at that moment.
Well, yeah, at this point, his other badass fighter is dead. His girl doesn't want him, and he's going up against a guy with unlimited resources. Yes, he's killed his big badass, but he still has a goon squad, and they've already said that the sheriff and the police are in his pocket. So it is a really actual, like, how's he supposed to win? Now obviously this is a movie and an 80s movie, so badass is gonna badass, but
all the thugs lined up in the yard, and the speeding car comes at them, and they're all like trying to like shoot the hell out of it. They're all blasting their guns.
Yeah, I mean, and you've got the original bartender's got the like the pump shotgun, and they're just going to town, and they get out of the way, and it hits like a bank and like flips over, and then kind of explodes. And, yeah, so they walk up to open it, to confirm the kill, and there's just a knife stuck in the driver in the gas pedal, and then you start seeing he just starts going through the guys one by one. There's like one guy walking around, and he just keeps finding the other guys beat to shit.
Yeah, I love that scene where he like looks upstairs and sees a guy, and he nails him with a knife up by throwing it up. Up the stairs. He
stabs because the guy took the knife and put it back in his holster. So you're like, okay, this is the guy who killed him. I think he stabbed him and then took the knife and threw it. And it's like, that's not a knife you can throw like that, but whatever, badass is gonna badass.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's finally down to where he's mano a mano with Wesley.
Not so fast, my friend. We got
we're in the big hunting room, the trophy room.
Right.
And he pushes the stuffed polar bear on the Tinker. And so Tinker is just under this polar bear. Tinker already didn't like the room.
He's kind of the overweight kind of doofus with the cat hat on most of the time. Caterpillar hat.
He got the big suspenders. Yeah. He's usually driving the monster truck most of the time.
I got a good laugh out of seeing him getting flattened by a stuffed polar bear.
Oh yeah, that's one of the things I always remember about this movie. Is a little while later when he's polar bear fell on me. But so now it's him and Brad Wesley.
Yep.
And surprisingly, Wesley's holding his own pretty good. You would think that this would be a really one-sided fight, but I guess they wanted to make it compelling. And then Brad pulls a gun, and he kicks the gun away.
He's a little beat up by this point, I think, and I think he grabs a spear and kind of hits him with that. And
yeah, he'd hit him with the spears. He threw some spears and missed, but you've got Swayze's on top of him on a chair, and he's got the hand motion like he's going to rip his throat out again. And then Elizabeth Clay shows up, and he looks at her, looks at Brad, decides not to do it, walks up to the girl. And then, obviously the villain, he gets the gun off the floor and goes to shoot him. Mm-hmm. And he's too far away. He's not going to be able to kick the gun or anything. And all of a sudden it's like, boom. And then Brad Wesley shot with a rifle shotgun by Red.
Oh yeah, all the business owners show up and they start blasting the hell out of him. And they're like, oh, we didn't see nothing.
Yeah, Red shoots him. The Ford dealership man shoots him. The owner of the Double Deuce shoots him. And then, finally he falls down. And you hear the cops, so they take the guns and hide them. And it's like the sheriff's like, who the hell's going to tell me what's going on here? And he's like, I didn't see anything. Red, did you see anything? No, I didn't see anything at all. I didn't see anything. And then at this point, Tinker's gotten up from the polar bear, and they're like, Tinker, you see anything? He's like, polar bear fell on me. And
that was a pretty good character. I was gonna say that was a good character moment. Yeah, when Swayze's up there about to rip his throat out, and he kind of has that change of heart. So
yeah, and then
gives him a little bit of an arc.
Yeah, Swayze gets the girl. They go, they're skinny dipping and like boning in the lake or the river.
Yep, he gets to be naked again. A lot of naked in this movie.
Yeah, there's a lot of. I mean, you see Homegirl, the doc. You see her naked. You see the other blonde girl, the other random girls throughout the movie. They're just naked. There's just titties in this movie. Like,
yep.
And you know Swayze and all his abs and his butt, and so. I mean, like you said, there's something for everybody. You take your date on a movie, you get to see boobs, she gets to see Swayze, you get to see Swayze kicking ass, like, you know, and then Swayze gets the girl, like
Sam Elliott being charming.
Oh yeah, Sam Elliott. Like you always think of him with the big mustache, but he didn't have the mustache in that movie. He had like the 5 o'clock shadow thing going on like the whole movie. So.
All right, so I think I know where you're going with this rating.
Oh yeah, like I said, this ain't winning any Oscars. This is not a 5-star like because it's the best movie ever. No, this is 5 stars. This movie is freaking great. It's entertaining. Like Dolomite said, this movie's got kung fu and titties. Like it's all Dolomite needs. And if it's good enough for Dolomite, it's good enough for me.
There you go. Obviously, I don't have the same nostalgia for it, but yeah, it's a very entertaining show. It falls solid in my very good category at 3.5.
Okay, yeah, that's about what I expected from you for it. Like probably from like a technical standpoint, that's probably an accurate rating, but it's just one of those movies I've grown up watching it. I've loved it my whole life. Like it's so. Yeah,
I'm like that with Twister. Like I know Twister's silly as hell, but I still get a thrill out of watching it every time. And I was going to bring this up during your preference guilty pleasure movies. So I would say that I do watch. I listen to a lot of people talk about movies, and they'll be talking about a Marvel movie and be like, "Oh man, it's shot so blandly." I'm like, well, that's not really why you're watching this movie. Like, I've kind of the more I watch movies, I kind of see what they're bringing to the table and talk about that, judge that and evaluate that. Because some movies, I mean, it's all story, but then other movies, it's all about all the technique. And so, yeah, I try to adjust whenever I see what they're bringing to the table, I kind of adjust, kind of evaluate based on that. That's why I probably rate so many kids movies so high, because I see exactly what they're bringing to the table, and if it's shit, I'm not gonna enjoy it. But if it's delivering something enjoyable, I mean, that's another case. So.
Yeah, I kind of do the same thing. So obviously, if you take a lot of the comedies, they're super raunchy. Sometimes the acting is really bad. Obviously, you're not getting, John Ford or Kurosawa,
Visuals.
Nature porn shots, but.
But if it makes you laugh.
Yeah, it's did they do their job? Were they funny? And then is it funny again, if you watch it later? And a lot of those movies do achieve that. And so, if you're gonna I'm gonna rate this comedy, as a comedy, yes, it's a 5 out of 5 or it's a 4 out of 5, but as a general, as a movie, it's probably much lower than that. But I kind of feel you kind of gotta take movies that are definitely made to make money or be entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
Do they do that job? So if you're talking about a Marvel movie, it's shot blandly, but it's shot in a way that the masses can see it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be entertaining. There's going to be explosions. Yeah, you're not going to get these big swooping shots or these different frames that show introspective without the characters having to tell you or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
They're just going. They're fun.
But then whenever they do that, I mean, that takes your 4-star Spider-Man movie, then you have the Spider-Verse, which does do that, where it really brings it to the next level by actually showing it play out with what looks like the pages of a comic book, and that that takes a 4-star comic book movie and bumps up to 5 stars for me.
Yeah, I mean, and so I mean, it's just all about what you're trying to do. Like a lot of people give Michael Bay shit for explosions, and hell, I'm one of them. I make the jokes all the time, but he knows what he wants to do when he makes that movie,
Mm-hmm.
and he does it. And like his movies make a ton of money. So like, who am I to tell him that he's not a good director because he makes a fuck ton of money?
Yeah.
Like,
Different people look for different things. I mean, this is way, way off topic. So I was listening to a podcast right before we got on, and remember I was talking about that Gene Dillman movie last year, and I was hearing a bunch of women that were really into film talking about it, and they were really relating with it, and it was interesting because with me, I connected with that movie because for me, I could clearly tell that she had some OCD up in here, but like those girls didn't mention that at all, and were more really focused on like the pride she was taking in the work. So everybody's going to look at something a little differently. So it's cool to see those differences in how people look at movies.
for sure. All right, so let's take a break, and when we come back, we're going to travel to the prom, and this is 1980 slasher cult classic Prom Night.
See you then. All right, we are back.
And better than ever. like, we're definitely back. So we're gonna stay, like we said before the break, we're gonna stay in the 80s, but we're gonna go all the way back to 1980 for Prom Night. So the synopsis, and this one's from IMDb, is at a high school senior prom, a mass killer stalks 4 teenagers who are responsible for the accidental death of a classmate 6 years previously. So basically the death of a classmate when they were 12 years old.
Right. So, yeah, this is definitely not a movie I would ever seek out. I think the only slashers I've ever seen are like the ones that are part of like franchises or acclaimed. So it was really interesting to see one that was kind of like an outlier and see like, I mean, there's elements of this definitely that are like influential. So I have a feeling I know the answer to this, but so how did this end up on your movies to watch? Is it a little Jamie Lee Curtis?
Jamie Lee Curtis was part of it, but more because of what she did in Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
So, but also, if you remember, my favorite horror / slasher movie is Scream.
Right.
And why did I just blank on Homeboy's name? I think his name's Jamie. His real name.
They drop a reference to this in Scream?
Not Prom Night, but they make reference to Jamie Lee Curtis being a Scream Queen, and they make reference to a different movie that I don't remember off the top of my head.
Okay.
But between that reference and then we watched Halloween for the 2019 Halloween special.
Yep.
Yeah. So it I think I like looked up her filmography or something, and I was like, oh, well, I want to kind of just go through some of these other slasher movies. Plus, I think, like Carl had never seen it, but he is like, yeah, it's supposed to be really good. So, and it has a remake. The remake was not received very well. It came out in 2008, somewhere in that ballpark, with starring Brittany Snow.
Was this movie received well?
I think so. It had an okay score, like on IMDb. I don't know the like how well it was received, but my understanding is it's like a cult classic kind of deal. Like yeah. Obviously it's not Halloween. It's not up there with some of your Freddys and your Jasons, but you definitely can see some of the tropes and stuff starting there. So the movie opens and you've got a bunch of children and they're playing hide and seek in an abandoned hospital.
Yeah.
So what could go wrong here? Like, it was perfectly safe, right? Like,
it really stood out to me that that hazy, overexposed look that like a lot of like either like soap operas or like melodramas have, like during like the romance scene. Like, there's like so many shots in this movie that had this like hazy look. I'm like, why? I found that very strange. And then like the whole like when they're walking through the hospital, playing this game, like the on screen credits are this bright yellow, and it had this very like TV movie feel to it to me. But
Yeah, I don't think this movie probably had like a super high budget. I say that, but it had Leslie Nielsen and like Jamie Lee Curtis had already been in Halloween, so I mean she was not like a mega star, but she wasn't unknown. Obviously Leslie Nielsen has been a big name for a long time. So,
but it definitely establishes a really cool atmosphere in that beginning because there's a lot of weird camera angle shots of like the hospital and there's some eerie music going on. So yeah, they definitely build some mood. Something's not going to go right with this little kids game, right? If you can call these kids, these are little monsters. What the fuck?
And it's like the game instead of just hide and seek, it's like they're hiding from a killer. So killer's gonna get you, killer's gonna get you. And while this is going on, you see three kids walking down the street, and then one of them's like, oh my God, I left my school book, I have to go back for it. And then the other two, it's another girl and a boy, and the boy's like, they don't want you as part of their game. And you see the one boy who's already playing like outside on like a window ledge, and she's like, hey, and he's like, go away, and so the boy's like, they don't want you to play, and he's like, I'm not waiting around, and he runs away, and then homegirl walks into the building and starts trying to hide, and she gets the boy caught, to the point where he basically is like, hey, I'm here, come get me, kind of deal. And then they kind of turn on the girl, and like all of them are like, killer's gonna get you, just repeating it over and over and over.
Yeah,
and
it's a hell of a way to greet a new kid to the gang.
Yeah, she's like, I don't want to play. And then they have her like, they're like backing her up, and she backs straight out of a window. And they're like, oh my God, we need to call somebody. The boy's like, we need to call somebody. And like the head honcho girl's like, no, they'll send us all to jail. No one will believe it's an accident. We're going to make a pact. You're all going to swear. So they all swear that they're not going to say anything.
Yeah, she goes from that creepy ass like killer's going to get you, and then all of a sudden she's like very serious and very like sympathetic all of a sudden, as these elementary school kids come up with this murder cover up. And they get them all to instantly buy in.
Yeah, and you see
even the girl with the pigtails like, yeah, I'm in.
Well, yeah, they all don't want to go to jail, and she's convinced them that they will go to jail, as opposed to, we were playing and she fell out a window. Which, a bunch of kids, abandoned warehouse, that seems reasonable. But yeah, cops think it was a sex offender, and I want to say I remember them saying something about it got out that they were looking for him, and like he got attacked and burned or something, which sounds very familiar to another primo big time 80s slasher movie. Freddy.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how Freddy's. That's why Freddy's fucked up. He was a sex offender towards children and all the.
Okay. I was thinking Jason for a second there.
Yeah. So, no, not Jason. Not the little boy who drowned.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. So Leslie Nielsen's in this right before he really broke out as a comedy star the same year with Airplane. So it's very strange seeing Leslie Nielsen as like the father of Jamie Lee Curtis and with the principal of the school.
Yeah, he's definitely in a very serious role. So, so we're gonna at this point you fast forward 6 years. You see the Leslie Nielsen and the mom. They're grieving at the grave of the girl, and you see the two siblings, the one boy that's left, and Jamie Lee Curtis.
His poofy curly hair.
Oh yeah, no, she definitely had that late 70s, early 80s hair going on.
Or her brother too.
Sure. Oh yeah. But at this point, she's like in her early 20s, and she's playing a 18-year-old high school senior, so it's not that much of a stretch. But she is. I thought she was smoking hot. I see that you never really got the appeal.
I've never really understood the appeal of Jamie Lee Curtis. I think she's a good actress, but to say she's like this like sex icon of that era. Like, I just don't see it.
Well, it was weird because I always thought of her as, I don't want to say old, but like an older person, because I don't really remember her from like the the newer Halloweens, I guess, that she was in, and then the Activia commercials. So when we went back and watched the OG Halloween, which I thought I had seen but hadn't, I was like, damn. And then I see her in this movie, and I'm like, all right, homegirl's got it going on. But I mean, that's basically her whole role in this movie, is that she's hot. Like, she's like the most popular girl in the school. She's been named prom queen. She's dating the guy who's prom king. Although his ex-girlfriend, which is the girl who was like, hey, well, she's dating the one boy who was there when her sister died. Yeah. And he had been dating like the girl who was like, hey, we're gonna make a pact. And then you find out like she's rich because you see her driving a vet, and it's she's super pissed that
I thought she was the hot one, to be honest.
Oh no, she was also attractive. But she's supposed to be like the hot, stuck up rich bitch kind of character. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But she wasn't just driving like a vet. She was driving a T-top, like peak, even though this was 1980s, but it was like 70s, 80s peak T-top vet. It was like bright ass orange.
And then the movie's like, hey, look at this creepy gardener guy. Let's talk shit about him and like hint that he's the killer. Hey, look at him.
It's like, oh yeah, and it's like he peeps on girls, and even later one of the girls like, hey, this is for you, and she like flashes her ass, and then gets sent to the principal. So the whole movie is them just preparing for the prom. Essentially, it's the day of the prom. They're all trying to go to school. One of the girls is walking down the street, and this dude just rolls up in a van.
Yeah.
And
what's she thinking getting in that van? But he ends up being a cool guy. He's actually my favorite character, I think.
Slick. Yeah. So I don't remember what he says, but he says something. I'm like, that's not super slick, but it works. He gets the girl in there.
And she's pretty good looking too. So.
Yeah, I mean, obviously most of the girls in these kind of movies are going to be good looking. So, but there's like a fight during the day, where this dude's trying, like he puts on the ski mask and makes a move on Jamie Lee Curtis, and Jamie Lee's brother comes and fights him, and they get sent to the principal's office, which is Jamie Lee's and her brother's dad, who's Leslie Nielsen.
He's gonna come out on top there.
It's like, you think I'm gonna show favoritism towards my son? You damn right. You're expelled. And this dude's like the typical 80s badass, and he ends up teaming up with the girl, the pissed off girl about Jamie Lee taking her boyfriend. And she's all like, they're scheming to make a plan to do something at the prom. So now they're trying to hint that maybe something's gonna happen with him.
And I like how like throughout this, like we start hearing these scary prank calls to all the kids that were involved in the pack, and that's clearly like Scream like took that as a signature later on. Definitely an homage there.
The calls coming from inside the house was like one of the jokes we made from I think it was Stranger Inside or something. It's one I haven't seen, but the clip was the calls coming from inside the house.
You were talking about like the cops think it's some like sex offender who was like disfigured. Until I like rewatched, like kind of flipped back through this movie earlier today, I had totally forgotten about that whole side investigation. For some reason, that did not stick with me at all. I watched this pretty late at night though.
So I mean, it was the guy from 6 years earlier that they thought it was, and he had been disfigured and like catatonic in a mental hospital. That sounds a lot like Halloween. Which was obviously first, but So they're all like, oh, he kidnapped the nurse. She's in they're in her beat up blue VW. They find her body in the abandoned hospital, stabbed to death. So they've got you. Is it gonna be the gardener? Is it the mental patient, coming for revenge. Like, you don't, they're trying to,
Yeah, throw you off course
you
with
know,
the red herrings.
yeah, basically. So,
And when I thought back about this movie, I was just like, because there are a few horror elements, like, slasher elements here and there, but for the most part, they save like everything for the last 30 minutes.
oh yeah, no, it is. It's just like it's a big build to the prom, which makes sense. It's called Prom Night, but
Mhm.
um, yeah, you see the bitchy chick now with the badass the bad boy from high school. They're together, and they pull into like this drive-in where the waitress is wearing like no clothes, like
Like Hooter shorts, but they're
yeah,
pink.
they're
And
like
I
in
think
Hooters
she's wearing
shorts.
heels or something. It was pretty strange. She wasn't
Yeah,
in
it was
like
heels.
skates.
And yeah, and then it was like a really low cut shirt to the point of like the dude is with this hot chick and he is just staring at her and she's like, "I'll get you one for Christmas."
He's just like, yeah, I'll have a couple burgers, some fries. Got any beer up in here? This is a
And then
drive-in. All right, Coke. She'll have the same.
she's
She's
like,
like,
No, no, no."
no, I'll have a small Diet Coke.
So
Hey, yearbook photos. That's a big part of this movie.
oh yeah, they definitely have the year, which is kind of weird because we took yearbook photos at the beginning of the year and prom was at the end of the year.
Mhm.
But I guess you're talking about where he's ripping them out of the
It was probably from the previous year's yearbook because it's not like
yeah.
they're not like senior yearbook like the like.
Well,
Well, you
I
could
don't know.
tell it's a small high school because I mean their photos are like really big.
Yeah, so I was thinking they actually were their senior pictures because of how big they were.
Uh
But
huh.
yeah, it could have just been a smaller high school. But I mean, they're supposed to be in a small town. Like they mentioned, not Columbus, but Cincinnati or maybe it
Oh,
was
really?
Columbus.
That
Yeah, they
takes
mentioned like the big city in Ohio, so it tells you that they're in Ohio.
okay. And then a little pigtail girl. I think we see a flashback to know that this older girl is her, and man, she got some duck lips. Pigtail girl turned into duck lips girl.
Is you're talking about the girl who's debating if she wants to sleep with her boyfriend at prom or not, and
Yep.
Jamie's like, he's it's like you should make him wait if that's what you want to do. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
So before that, they had been playing tennis, and that's when the one girl flashed her ass. But
Mm-hmm.
then they're taking a shower, and hot or bitchy girl finds a I guess the picture or something in her locker, and then Jamie Lee and the very virginal girl are they're like getting changed, and they hear something crack, and you see this mirror's all busted up,
Mm-hmm.
and then they like run out looking to see who did it, and then they come back and a piece of glass is gone, and then you find that glass like with their pictures in their lockers later, but not
Mm-hmm.
Jamie Lee because she's not involved, but the other people.
Right. Right. And
So,
I forgot exactly when it happens. I think it might be whenever like the actual dance starts, but there's a shot that like it's just like on this girl's ass. And it just kind of follows the girl's ass for a while. And you're like and it's just kind of out of nowhere and like all of a sudden like these other guys are like checking her out too, but I'm like, yeah, that's the male gaze shot of the movie.
oh well, yeah. I mean, basically what happens is there's a bunch of hot chicks, and they're like, "Yep, this is what we're here for. We're not shying away from it."
Nope.
Although there wasn't a ton of nudity. There was only really like the one girl, the virginal
Yeah,
girl.
yeah, and kind of her like embarrassing moment you kind of see her whenever she feels like kind of humiliated. So that was kind of a downer.
Yeah. So yeah, you've got the bad boy listed as D bag, but I think she was with the D bag because they're getting hot and heavy, and she decides she wants to stop, and he's like mocking her, and then he's like, "Well, if you won't, if you won't, there are plenty who will." And he leaves, and you see her naked, putting her dress on, and then she totally just gets her throat slit like out of nowhere, and it's like, oh well, now we're starting. We're starting with the slashing.
Well, yeah, the guy who is pissed that he doesn't get laid or whatever. He's definitely not a nice guy either. But I think the d bag of the movie is the the guy who gets in trouble for wearing the mask at the beginning or whatever.
Oh yeah, and he picks up the girl in his shitty car, and he's got the guys with him, and he doesn't have his tux on. He's like, yeah, it's in the trunk, and then he like just chugs a big old chug of Jack Daniels, and then
Yeah,
drives off, and it's like, bruh, negative. I would not be in this car. I'd be like, I'll meet you there.
yeah, and she's wearing this smoking ass red dress. She looks pretty fine. Like even though I guess she's supposed to be kind of the bitch in the movie. Like I was kind of digging her. Let's see
I mean,
here.
nah, dude, she definitely was attractive for sure.
So what? Find this. Okay. How did oh, okay. So this is okay. So after the virginal girl gets killed, like all of a sudden the killer's like knows where Slick and the other girl are like boning in a van out in the middle of nowhere. Like how did
Well,
he?
I don't. I think it's supposed to be close to the school because, like, in one of the earlier scenes, Jamie Lee's talking to her boyfriend, and they're like out on like the bluff, like at the cliffs, but you can hear the bell ringing, and
Okay.
they have to leave. So I don't know exactly how close it is, um, to the school, but I think it's supposed to be pretty close.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, basically, oh, y'all banged and y'all smoked some weed. Time for you to die.
Yeah.
Which the girl was one of the other ones there, and Slick just happened to also be there, and he's high as a kite trying to fight the killer off and drive in this
Van.
van, and
Killer
so
had
I
some
we
pretty
were
good timing jumping out of the van before it took a tumble off the cliff. Kaboom.
oh yeah, so like we were watching on it was free to watch on IMDb, but there was ads, and they hit an ad break in the middle of that scene with him in the van.
Oh no.
So like we never see him. It just comes back, and all of a sudden it's like
He's flying off the
the
cliff.
van, and it's like, well, I'm assuming he's jumped out of this van because he's the
Yeah.
killer, and there's still like 20-30 minutes left of this movie.
Yeah.
So, and then somewhere in there, um, the sheriff or the officer gets the phone call like, hey, they found the escapee 50 miles away. So he's like, oh, I can finally enjoy the prom. And then a little while later, you see the maintenance guy or the lawn care guy or whatever, and he's drunk, but he's like, there's a killer on the loose, and like no one believes him. And then he starts stalking the bitch chick, the killer does.
One thing before we
And
get too far is there's actually a pretty solid amount of like prom dancing we see before like the killings start
oh
going
yeah,
down, and like Jamie Lee Curtis and her boyfriend, they're doing the whole like Saturday Night Fever thing where they're doing like the couples dance, getting down, and so there's quite a bit of dancing that kind of
oh
kicks this thing off. And then later on, they kind of use the dance sequences as like little like cutaways between the killings.
yeah, they were trying to show up homegirl. His ex-girlfriend came, and she's with homeboy, and he's like, well, we got to show him up. And the whole time that the bitch chick is with the douchebag or the bad boy or whatever you want to call him, she's like, yeah, we're gonna do this. It's gonna be a night they never forget. And then she's like, I don't want anybody to get hurt. And he basically tells her to fuck off, and so she goes away, and that's when she runs into the killer. She puts up a hell of a fight. Like,
Yeah, that went on for a long, long time. Oh, it was pretty hilarious. Like when she's dancing with the guy she's with, and he's like, pumping the air or whatever, and he turns around, he's like, "Oh, where'd she go?" But yeah, it goes on for a long time. It's kind of anticlimactic though. What she's like, she hides in a classroom, and then she runs down to like where like they work on cars, and like all like she's trying to escape, but all the doors are locked, and she finally hides in a closet. And conveniently, like her friend who they made the pact with, what is like, I guess her dead body's like stored up there, and like randomly falls and freaks her out. And what comes out of the
which
closet, locks
which is a
eyes with the
pretty
killer, locks eyes, and then gets the axe.
yeah, and that's a pretty big trope, in horror movies is hiding somewhere and the blood dripping down and the body scares them like that. That happens a lot. in horror movies. So I don't know if that's the first instance of it, but this is a pretty early slasher movie, so it probably is. Um, so they start doing the prank. Well, they hey, it's time to get ready for the prom king and the prom queen.
Yep.
Where's your father? We don't know. So I guess the assistant principal is going to do it. So they go in the back, and the boy and his goons are back there. And
Leslie Nielsen disappear from the movie at this point?
He went. I don't remember why he wasn't there, but he wasn't there at that specific moment for some reason.
Huh.
I think his wife was freaking out or something, and he was trying to calm her down because that happened a bunch throughout the movie. So so the bad boy knocks out. I think his name's Nick.
Yeah, him and his goons like tie him up or whatever.
Yeah, and he takes his jacket, puts the crown on, and they're waiting for the musical cues. And musical cues start, and then all the killer beheads him with the axe. His head rolls onto the screen or onto the stage, and like everyone starts screaming.
Like kind of a catwalk kind of deal.
Yeah, and you're like, hey, stay calm. And at that point, Jamie Lee finds her boyfriend and like unties him, but he's still, his like legs fucked up, and he's still kind of, I just been knocked out, so he's real drowsy, and he's trying to fight the killer, and the killer's kind of getting the better of him.
And the guy's head's sitting there on the stage, like it rolls over, and it's right next to this like blinking light. That was easily the best part of the movie for me.
Yeah, they stepped over his head leaving, and so somehow the axe gets knocked away, and Jamie Lee picks it up, and she domes the killer in the head, not with the blade, but with the back of it.
Yeah.
So maybe it was with the blade. Yeah, she fucked him up pretty good with that, and then
I guess we've kind of skipped over, like, what do you think of this appearance of this killer? So he's dressed all in black. He's a pretty thin guy, and he has the ski mask with the cutout eyes. Like, I mean, not iconic, but I mean, I guess it holds its own in kind of a unique way.
So also, I mean, obviously he's wearing the ski mask because he's disfigured and he's burned up, so that's why he's wearing the ski mask. But wait a minute, that person was found 50 miles away. So is he disfigured and burned up? Also, we've already seen them take the other guy out, the maintenance person. So is it the escapee and they found someone else who's disfigured? Like so at this point you're like, hold on a minute, they've given us all of these different things. Something's not adding up here.
And then, Jamie Lee locks eyes with him, knows it's her little brother there.
Yeah, she can tell who it is, and he starts going outside, and the cop's there, and I think at that point Leslie Nielsen's back, and she's like, "Don't shoot him," and
some fun editing where it like flash like it. He's obviously disoriented, so the camera's going like all over the place, and it's like flashing back to his sister's death, but it's flashing back to like moments of his sister's death that he would have never actually seen. So the movie could have done a little better with like just showing like the girl falling out the window, in my opinion.
Yeah, and then so they unmask. You see it's the younger brother, and then
with lipstick on.
Yeah, he had lipstick on, which I guess was weird, but I guess it was supposed to be for his sister. But how was he? My thing before we go any further is like he was the DJ of the prom. He was the sound system guy and like the music. So how was he killing all these people if he was playing the music?
I do recall him seeing him up there, but I didn't realize that was his job. So
he at the beginning, and there's a scene in the kitchen, and Jamie Lee's like, "Who are you going with to the prom?" And he's like, well, I got to do the music, or I got to do the sound, or something like that. So they say that like really early on in the movie. So you got obviously it's the brother dying. They hit you with the big swerve because the whole movie.
Well, he's not really dying. He's just like he's really like dazed and like he's crying and he's really emotional. It's kind of a bitter moment there.
But then he does like the kind of universal, like he stops moving and making noise. So like I took it that he died from the head wound from being domed in the head.
Okay. I just kind of figured it was like this emotional moment of him like just being like, not only being hurt, but like, emotional that, he's taking revenge on, his sister's killers or whatever. And it just kind of, yeah, I didn't take it to where he died. That's interesting that, I mean, maybe he had a concussion. I mean, an axe to the head, pretty intense.
Yeah. And, then it shows the flashback where he's standing over the body. So he knows he saw her fall. Right. It was like, I killed, and he said he killed her, which I guess because he ran away and left her there, as opposed to going with her kind of deal.
He saw the kids from the pack like ride their bicycles away, didn't he?
Either saw him ride the bikes away, or he saw them standing at the window, or something of that nature. Yeah. So, we're talking about tropes. So everybody either almost had sex, so the virginal girl, but she showed her tits, so nudity. And then Slick and the other girl, they had sex
and drugs.
And drugs. So they definitely they died, and that is definitely a big trope. Don't say you'll be right back. Don't have sex. So.
What about the bitchy hot girl?
She never had sex in the movie that we saw. It was definitely implemented that she had slept with her ex-boyfriend because she calls him lover.
Yeah.
But that also could have just been to, try to get under Jamie Lee's skin. But she didn't have sex, but, she was part of the murder pact, so.
Yeah. Her ex, the prom king, he kind of had that Tool vibe going on with his sweater tied around his neck, and he was telling his dad how, like, he's not going out with the one girl, but he's going out with the other girl now, and he's like, man, I wish I had your woman problems.
I mean, yeah, but if you're, the prom king and that popular, but he tells Jamie Lee that he loves her in the movie. Like, he tries to come clean when they're on that scene by the cliffs, and that's when the bell rings and she's like, I gotta leave. So.
Oh really? Okay. He tries to come clean that he killed his sister, or he was involved with her sister's death.
Yeah, he's like, hey, I got something I need to tell you. I've been trying to tell you for a long time, or something like that. And then, he's kind of like stumbling over it, trying to figure out how to say it. And then the bell rings, and Jamie Lee's like, I gotta go. And he's like, yeah. So, where would you rate this movie, Mr. Peterson?
Interesting. I'm kind of leaning at 3. I mean, it definitely builds some decent atmosphere. I mean, it's silly at the same time. I'm somewhere between a 3, 3.5, but I'd probably stick with a 3.
I gave it a 3.5. I thought it was just a little bit better than average. Like, honestly, Leslie Nielsen and Jamie Lee's like actual acting ability, like, I think brought it up a good bit. And you can see a lot of things that you see in a lot of movies, like, where if we had maybe never seen all of these other movies in the 40 years since this movie's came out, it probably would have changed how we saw the movie. Mm-hmm. At least to me.
And I think part of it is like, feeling like it's taken, like, you have to wait till the last 30 minutes until, you really start getting, some slasher stuff going on, where like Scream kind of like does it throughout the whole thing. Like, I think it really holding off on that until the very end, that was part of one of my holdups.
I actually, part of me was like, man, they're not really killing anybody, but it's that, they're building an atmosphere, and it's kind of a build where we're used to these newer horror movies where most of the time they are just, 5-10 minutes in, someone's dead, or, maybe 20 minutes, it doesn't take a long time. But this was that kind of that build and that suspense. So plus, can't really, I mean, they gave you the one death at the very beginning, and they gave you the other death, part of the way through, but you don't really see anything. There's no like slashing. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely the lopped head off was definitely the peak of, kind of what I would want to see from a movie like this.
Yeah. I mean, the van scene was absurd. Just literally absurd. But But yeah, I think three and a half. Like I have 3.5. I think that's somewhere in that rating is fair for it. I don't think it's an upper tier, but I definitely you can see where it influenced a lot of other movies.
For sure. All right, so where are we going next, Joey?
All right, so you last time gave me a movie from my favorite director and one of your favorite directors, good old Quentin Tarantino.
Mm-hmm.
And we really haven't really talked about a ton of his movies, to have where we
On a main
we
episode,
used,
at least.
yeah, and we did a little bit of Kill Bill on Snowblood, and then we had the bonus episode when Once Upon a Time came out.
Yeah, we ranked his movies there.
Yeah. So I said I wasn't going to do Kill Bill. I put a lot of thought into this, and this might be a little bit of a cheater pick, but remember, when we go back to the quote from tonight. It was from a Robert Rodriguez movie.
Okay.
Quentin guest directing. So I'm going to pick From Dusk Till Dawn. Even though that is a Robert Rodriguez directed movie, it A, stars Quentin Tarantino, and B, he wrote the dialogue for the movie. So it definitely feels like a Quentin Tarantino movie.
Oh, you sneak. I gave you a softball, and you're like, "No, I'm hitting this baseball over here, bitch."
Look, I wanted to go and do something different, and how many times in
when
lists
you said
or something?
when you said you took it off your list, I thought I was like, "Oh, you got it," because I saw Inglourious Bastards was on your list.
Well, that was what I was gonna pick, and then I thought about it some, and I was like, "Nah, let's do From Dusk Till Dawn." So, if you do not accept that, it will be Inglourious Bastards. But
I have to accept. I'm not gonna bitch out. All right.
I figured, you've done some cheater picks on stuff on like lists and stuff, so I was like, you know what, we'll go there. So
Motto. All right, there you go. All right, so we got the Wheel of Destiny, right?
Yep, Wheel of Destiny. That is
All
your
right.
turn to spin.
1 through 49. Let's generate a number, Google. We got 26. Going into my movies here. Number 26 is The Last Tango in Paris, starring Marlon Brando.
All right, so we have some good juxtaposition here, with Last Tango in Paris as your spin movie, and From Dusk Till Dawn. So we're gonna have some good juxtaposition, and then I have. So you're
familiar with Last Tango?
I've heard of it. Like I feel like I've heard of it, but I couldn't tell you.
I think it's notorious for like unsimulated sex scenes, and Bernardo Bertolucci directed it. Just to give this movie its due a little bit. Who won Best Director for or won Best Picture for The Last Emperor. So, he's very known for his cinematography. But, to my knowledge, this is a straight kind of strange romance.
Okay, so good. Like I said, good juxtaposition. So, all right. So, oddly enough, I tried to think of some different categories to give you, because we've been doing some weirder stuff. So I came up with one, and oddly enough, it's gonna kind of tie in to our guest email, and I did this before you reminded me for the email, so it just kind of worked itself out. So I'm gonna give you a war movie that is not Barry Lyndon.
You're that scared that I'm gonna go back to the Kubrick well, huh?
Look, you would have the opportunity, you could possibly take it, and I guess we just did a war movie, but there's so many other ways you can go, and there's so many options that I figure you can pick out something good, whether you go with like a modern war movie or you go with like a period piece war movie. There's just a lot of options there. So
I wouldn't actually thought of Barry Lyndon when it comes to war movies. I mean, there's some like 1812 kind of war sequences in it for sure, but It's
when I
funny
wa-
that you
what-
peppered that in.
Well, when I watched the trailer when I was like trying to pick Kubrick movies, the trailer made it look like it was like the war was a big deal in the movie. So, and we've kind of done, you know, several war movies when you like some of them don't necessarily like focus on the war, but like Army of Shadows was during the war, Ivan's childhood.
The one that Barry Lyndon would most closely relate to was The Duelist, that kind of period.
Yeah, and we did The Duelist, and we've done Jesus, it's not Platoon. I just literally blanked on the name.
Full Metal Jacket.
Full Metal Jacket, yeah.
The last episode.
Look, it's like my bedtime generally at this point, brother. You gotta go with me. Yes, but yes, Full Metal. So we've done some more movies, but I figure it'll give us some flexibility. You can pick something out.
Okay, yeah, there's a lot. I mean, obviously a few things came to mind right away, but yeah, I'll have to war movies. See what I end up deciding to go with. So
I'm intrigued, and it'd be really interesting if you pick like I don't expect you to like go look at my list, but I have some in my list, so it would be interesting if you just randomly pick one of the same ones or something. So. All right. So on that note, any of you guys would like to have us answer a question on the show, you can send it to us at the Average Joe's Movie Clubcast at gmail.com. Or Justin's got a vote going, but you can comment on any of our stuff on Letterboxd. You can go to our Facebook page, which is the Average Joe's Movie Clubcast. There's a big red button that'll let you email us. If you know us personally. You can message us on our personal Facebooks, whatever. Just, let us know what you're thinking, or if you've got any suggestions, we'd love to, shout you out like we did those two gentlemen today. So.
All right. Joey, why we do this show?
Because we love talking about movies.
Not everybody.
Bye.
You and I have unfinished business.
Oh? And what's so stinking about it?
When you catch it feeling, spirit is something. I think this just might be my masterpiece.